What's good? Good to see you. Happy Tuesday. I hope everyone was able to have a nice weekend and get back into the week. I am absolutely exhausted. I had a very tiring weekend, but I hope everybody's doing well. I am doing completely fine. Like I said, just super tiring. First link, hosting website material is broken. It is not broken. I know it seems broken. It's not broken. It is a link to a download, actually. Okay. Well, what you pasted in is right, but let me check the actual link itself, because I pasted in that exact one. Let's see, for hosting a website link. Hold on, let me click it. It says templates downloads. Oh, I'm not sure why. Let me see. Let me click it. Wrong one. Why did it take me back here? Cam Cloud. Let's see. Hosting a website. Come on. Open this up. View material. Edit. Let's see. It should be. I'll take the one you have here. It must have. It must have changed it. Huh. Interesting. Hold on. Let me paste it back in. Let me see if it does the same thing again. Go to close it. Open it. Because it took a long time. I remember when I pasted it in the first time. It took a long time to like save. Updated just now. Let me know if that works. Thanks for the heads up for sure. Yeah. Check it out now. It should just be a download, so don't expect it to take you to a website. It should simply download a file. I wasn't gonna give you the file itself. You'll see as we get a little bit farther along. You'll see why I gave you the download. Why I gave you the link to the download URL as we get into that lab. Cool. What's up, everybody? What's up, Configured? Good to see you. What's up, Jaku? Good to see you. What's up, Edwards? Good to see you. So, like I said, this weekend was super tiring for me. We decided to get all of our housewarming stuff. Linking straight to the download, pretty sus. I agree. Generally pretty sus. I'm going to ask you to trust me here. We're also not going to download this to our computer. We're going to be downloading this to an EC2 instance, so you don't got to worry about that. What's up, Caleb? But yeah, very sus. Absolutely very sus. Normally, I would tell you to avoid that at all costs. Yeah, so we did two housewarmings in one weekend. We went to cookouts every day, which was fun. I have like a super tan right now. Like I look like an island boy. I mean, so if y'all didn't know, I have Jamaican blood coursing through my veins. I'm 1/4 Jamaican. I don't know much about my Jamaican heritage, to be honest. I got a lot of Jamaican family, so we actually had a housewarming kind of specifically for my Jamaican family, Jamaican side of the family, and then we also had one for my dad's side of the family. And now I'm exhausted, but it was good. My daughter got to like really play with all of her cousins and stuff, so that was super dope. It was super dope. But yeah, just tired. So I'm trying to get back into it. I'm trying to get my energy up, for sure, but feeling good. Dope. Other Caribbeans in the house. I love it. Love jerk chicken. Jerk chicken is dope. So I do want to learn how to cook Caribbean food. I don't know how to cook Caribbean food. I don't really know how to cook much food, to be honest. I can make do with the staples. Your boy cooks really good spaghetti, no problem at all. What else can I cook? I can bake some chicken. I can put a lot of stuff in the crock pot. I can make all kinds of crock pot meals because the crock pot is easy for me. Stuff like that is I can make a steak. I can do a little bit of grilling, but I gotta learn how to really cook some good stuff. Yeah, it was a tiring weekend, but seriously, really good weekend. It was good to see lots of family. Oh no, shrewd food. I have an air fryer. Air fryer makes you feel like you're good at cooking everything, for sure. Air fryers are the best thing. Okay, so crock pots are, I still think a crock pot is a little step above an air fryer. air fryer, you know, the speed definitely has the edge there. But I hadn't cooked anything in a crock pot like my whole life, and then we got 3 crock pots when I got married, and so we kept 2, and we're like, we got to try cooking stuff. Whatever you put in the crock pot, you just take stuff, you drop it in with a little seasoning, and it comes out amazing almost every time. Definitely good, but now air fryer is definitely where it's at. Sous vide, no, not me. You don't want me to do that. Air fryer sped up my cook time tremendously. Yeah, I've heard about instant pots. I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna get one eventually. I'm trying to get better at I'm trying to be a better cook. I'm cool keeping it simple. I'm a 100% quantity over quality guy. Good food is great. I do. That's not to say I don't like good food, but I'd rather have lots of mediocre food than a little bit of great food. So like, I'm easy to please, to be honest. So I haven't really needed to get my cooking amazing, but we'll work on it. Sous vide is the key to precise cooking. Okay. Yeah, I'm down for instant pot. I really am. I'm gonna get on that for sure. We're trying to do a lot of meal prep and stuff, so we'll make it work. All right, so today we've got a couple of AWS labs to go through, and if you've dealt with AWS before, these will probably seem pretty chill, pretty simple things, but hopefully you get something out of it. These are valuable. These are very valuable labs to do with EC2. We're focusing on EC2. I think what's interesting about the EC2 service itself is that most of the labs that you can do with it, if you go to Cloud Guru, if you go anywhere and you find a lab to do specifically around EC2, it's really a Linux lab because that's what you're getting. You're simply being given a Linux computer. Yes, EC2, you can't have a Windows machine, you can't have a Windows computer, but we will actually be working with Linux because that is normally what you're going to be working with, and that's what most people, that's what we need to. That's what we need to work with here. Yep, King EC2 Elastic Compute Cloud. So we learned about EC2 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we learned about EC2 2 weeks ago. But yeah, this is the Elastic Compute Cloud. This is a service of AWS, and so this is what we're doing right now is an AWS kind of boot camp here. We're doing a 22-week Amazon Cloud Computing with Amazon Web Services boot camp, and the service that we're focusing on right now is EC2. What's up, Deltree? Let me get logged in to EC2. Yeah, what happened to EC1? That would just be the Elastic Cloud, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. So first thing first, go ahead and get logged in to your AWS account. So I'm gonna get logged in as my root user, which this is not good. Hold on. My main account, it's AWS. Hold on, I gotta look it up. I gotta look it up in my Gmail admin because I made a. This is supposed to pre-fill for me. I don't know why it's not pre-filling for me. This later. Users. Oh, I think it's AWS Academy. There we go. And password. There we go. Every time we use AWS, I always get bogged down with permissions and all that. So yes, permissions. We talked about IAM for a bit. Yes, permissions is what I feel like is the most frustrating part of AWS, to be honest, or any cloud provider. Yes, you will get bogged down with that. It is always going to be the most annoying piece of the puzzle. But again, understanding what it is all you need. You can always eventually work through the issue. Yes, we preach the rule of least privilege. Yes, security is of concern, but you can always work backwards. You can always give maximum permissions and then backtrack individually from there. But yeah, okay. So I'm logged in real quick. First, though, I struggle to type in my password. So y'all know where we're going. I got to get comfortable typing in front of y'all. I'm getting better and better every single time I type in front of y'all. So we'll keep it to the 15-second typing test. Oh no, and I haven't typed much today at all. So Oh, you see that? Ah, man, not even. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna reset. I'm gonna go slow like we did last time. Last time was really good. I said, hey, I'm gonna work on just accuracy on the first one, and then we are gonna step it up and try to get all of the numbers. Wow, I'm feeling way off today. Like I said, I'm consistently in the mid to high 80s right now when I'm doing it on my own. So I'm about to crack that 90 very, very soon, which would be really, really nice and really, really exciting. So I'm trying to get up to high 70s with you all while you're watching, while I got a little bit of what's it called? A little bit of shyness. But we'll get there eventually. Hopefully. Wood small. Oh no. Okay. All right. So 71. Let me go one more time. That was more than 68. Let me see if I can get high 70s real quick, and then we'll get started. Oh, nah. My fingers just feel slow today. I'm having to like think, and that's, you can't go faster when you're thinking about what you're doing. All right. Well, I'll keep going with this because I'm almost done. But there we go. All right. Like I said, we're getting there. We're getting better. I'm getting a little bit better in front of you all, but just I got to get my fingers loose and ready to go. I got locked out of my AWS account and subsequently all of my other Amazon accounts. Had to call Amazon to get back in. I need password manager. Which one do you use? I use LastPass. LastPass is my password manager of choice. I do use NordVPN, so I thought about using Nord's, but we recently started using LastPass for my family. So me and my wife could better be able to share passwords. If something happens to me, I want her to be able to get into things as well, and vice versa. So LastPass is what I use, and like I said, I actually pay for it. But yeah, I like LastPass. 1Password, I've heard really good things about 1Password, and I don't know much about Nord. The Nord password manager, again, I was only going to use it because I do use NordVPN, but they're always I feel like anyone who advertises as much as they do is someone to look out for. But yeah, I use a VPN. But yeah, LastPass is pretty dope. Works for me. Actually, I don't know why I'm not logged in here, but that's probably why I didn't pre-fill. Not probably, that's definitely why I didn't pre-fill, because I'm not logged in. Make sure you make your master password pretty long. Or difficult to guess. You don't want anyone getting that master password. I will get logged in. Try Bitwarden. I've heard good things about Bitwarden for sure. Let me check out Bitwarden. So that's actually, hold on, we gotta talk about that a little bit. So something that I started playing more video games than I should have been playing. Okay, this happens every so often. I have some good, powerful computers that I game on, but right now is not the time of my life where I need to be gaming a lot. There's a lot of things I need to be working on, actually, and so I read something a long time ago about willpower and all this stuff, and whenever this happens, I completely remove the rather than resisting the urge to do something, I simply remove it. So I actually just went full-time Linux again. I did again. I do this every so often, but I'm full-time Linux on my home computer and on my laptop. I can't go Linux here on this desktop because of my stream stuff and my video editing stuff. But I will say this has been the best time ever. Okay, it's been working out really well this time, and I've actually been able to get my video editing software installed. It does run on Linux, but it's supposed to only run on CentOS. I'm running Pop OS. I'm using Pop OS. And out of any time that would have ever stayed, I think this time I might stay. I really might stay and only edit from this PC and use, do all the other work that I need to do from my other computers. But it's going well. Again, I've done, like I said, done a bunch of times, and I think I figured out how to get everything done that way. I'm not grinding Overwatch. I'm staying away for a while. I'm staying away for a long time. Oh, I love Pop OS. Is it better? Better's a weird word. It is more stable and more feature rich for features that I like than any other distro that I've used. And I highly, if you want to mess around and fight with your Linux distribution, maybe use something else. But out of all the Linux distros I've ever used, it is the one where things just work, which is super duper helpful. Watched Straight Outta Compton, great film, came out in 2015. And Top Gun Maverick, Sin City. I just watched Top Gun again because I'm getting ready for Top Gun Maverick. For those of you who don't know, I wanted to be a fighter pilot growing up. Then I got my bubble burst when I was like 14 or 15 at a state fair, actually, where the recruiter told me I was too big to ever fit into a fighter pilot cockpit. But I do love Top Gun. I'm very excited to go see Top Gun Maverick. I've heard it's pretty good, so I'm pretty excited about it. Oh, they were right, King. They were correct. I actually had the opportunity to sit in a fighter pilot cockpit, and I was, in fact, man, you got to be a little person. You got to be a little person to fit in there. Seriously, you got to be real slender, and you can't be that tall either. So like, I wasn't upset. I wasn't really upset after that. I was really upset before that, but not after that. It is what it is. I get it. I definitely get it. Oh yeah, System 76, dope. Which System 76 machine do you have? I had their Darter? No. Lemur? No, I had a Galago. Galago Pro. I don't think they make the Galago anymore. Maybe I'm tripping. But I do love System 76 computers. They're pretty dope. Even though I like them, if you do want to get a Linux computer, you don't mind installing it yourself, I do recommend Framework laptops for sure. What would be my fighter nickname? Oh, that's a good one. That would be a good one. I'm going to think about that for a bit. I'm going to get back to you on that. I'm going to think about it. Yeah, no glasses wears either. So I only have astigmatism. So apparently that's correctable by surgery. And they actually they used to not do surgery for fighter pilots. That's changed. Like before I was in, it changed. So I think I would have been able to get in for my eyesight. I think I'm good. 5'2" for the win. I agree. I think you would have been perfect. Fits Tom Cruise perfectly. He's like 5'8". So I heard Tom Cruise is actually like he's really like 5'6.5". So like I think everyone's usually surprised at how short he is. But yeah, got to fit the seat. Yes, he got to work. I'm gonna go Pro as well. Then it fried itself. Yeah. Mine stopped charging, and then I should have reached out, and I'm sure they would have helped me get it fixed, but I don't know. I gotta go find it. Replace it with the Gazelle, and I'm okay with it. Okay, dope. All right, here we go. So, so I might try Bitwarden because, I like open source stuff. But seriously, I should have switched earlier because I've been in the middle of making this like desktop Linux video for like a long time, like a complete guide. It's like an hour long on like setting up desktop Linux, like, and all the different options you have. And I should have gone full-time Linux before that because I learned a lot, and now I got to go back and change some stuff because there's now apps for everything that I used to have to do workarounds for. Like there's stuff for everything now. So it makes it really easy. So I might try Bitwarden out a little bit later. Okay, get logged into your EC2 instance, and what we're gonna do is we are gonna start with lab number 1. Which is going to be recovering if we should lose our EC2 instance, our EC2, our SSH private key. We're not going to lose our instance. We're going to lose the private key so that we can authenticate with the EC2 instance. And remember, that's the only way to authenticate is through SSH keys, through SSH key pairs. So let's learn how to do it. Host Bitwarden yourself. There's a Docker available for it. Yeah, I'm going to try that out. Seriously. I don't mind paying for LastPass, but I'm also down to I love supporting open source as much as I can. I love using open source software because it runs the world. All right, so hosting a website is not the first lab. We're going to do EC2 instance recovery first. Okay, so the scenario, you have spun up an EC2 instance to do whatever. Maybe you were practicing something, maybe you were running an application for someone, and then it's been months. Let's say it's been a bunch of months, everything's been going good, but now there's a problem. You need to make a critical update. You need to get in there and upgrade the version of WordPress or whatever you were running on that system. But now you've gotten a new computer, you've gotten yourself a new shiny M1 Mac. You were using a stinky Dell before. I'm saying this sarcastically, but you're using a stinky, smelly computer before. Now you're using a brand new, shiny computer, and you did not carry the key over. You no longer have access to it, okay? You no longer have access to it. What do you do? Well, this lab is going to take us through that understanding what our options are here. You're fortunate that in today's world, there are lots of options for this. This did not used to be the case. And the lab that I'm going to take you through is much easier than, I guess you could have always done this, but the go-to method was called an instance rescue, and you'd have to spin up another instance and remove the storage and then connect it. A lot of work that you no longer have to do. Okay, you can do it a little bit easier, but there are a lot of options for this. We're going to just go over one of the easiest ones. King, absolutely hit exclamation point VODs. Yes, that's the channel that they're all on. The last class for each of these classes will be available soon. They all got copyright stricken. It'll be removed. The copyright strike should be removed like today or tomorrow. Usually it's been taking about 3 or 4 days to get them removed. It should stop happening pretty soon. So the very latest videos aren't up, but they should be up in a day or two. But I try to get them up right after class, but we've been, the channel is new, and the streaming service I use for the music, has to whitelist you, and it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes. But yeah, that's where you can go to get them. That's where they'll all be if you can't make it to class. So we're going to do this, this user data. We're going to use this user data method today. And again, there are other options on here, but we're going to go over this user method option, and we're going to just talk about how it works and what is going on. So first things first, let's go ahead and let's make a new EC2 instance for us to use. Now, if you already have one, that's fine. You can use it. You can use the one we spun up last time. If you stopped it, I don't think I have one running. Make sure you are in a region that you want to be in. For this, it doesn't really matter if it's the closest one to you. You can switch to whatever region you want. But again, usually it's best to get to the one that's closest to you just for, internet latency sake. So I'll go back to Northern Virginia. I think we might have an instance over here still. No instances, no problem. What I will do is I'm going to, oh, yes, we do. I just don't have any running. So I'm going to make a new one. Just in case anyone doesn't have an instance, let's go over it again. Let's figure out how to do it. So I'm going to launch a brand new instance. Again, it's pretty easy to do. Launch instance, big orange button that'll allow us to do it. And then we can kind of leave everything default. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this rescue. I'm going to put lab at the front, and I'm going to call it SSH key rescue, so that I can clearly see what this is for. That's going to be the name that I give it. You can call it whatever you want. Remember, the name is just it's a piece of metadata. It's a tag. This name is actually tags. You used to have to manually add this as a tag before, but now they make it a lot easier for you in the interface to set up a name for this thing, but it can be whatever you want. I completely missed my mouth when trying to take that sip. A little bit embarrassing, but it's all good. Leave it on. You can feel free to leave it on Amazon Linux. You can make it whatever you want. The only difference is if you decide to make it a different operating system, which you can, you need to know which user to log in as. So, I'd recommend sticking with Amazon Linux. Any advice for someone starting their own programming stream? Yes. One, just do it. Just get started. It's going to be super awkward at first. It's going to be super uncomfortable. That's the first one. Just get started, because then not only are you getting comfortable learning how to stream, you're also learning what to do. You're learning how OBS works. You're learning, how your computer responds to certain things. Is your computer powerful enough? All that stuff. It'll start to give you insight into what you want to get better at. And pick a topic that you're comfortable with to start. Just because you likely won't feel super comfortable being wrong in front of people or messing up. Pick something that you're comfortable navigating. Would be my advice as well. But yeah, I mean, people have been great. So like, I wouldn't worry about people making fun of you or anything like that. Like, I don't see much of that, especially in this category. Maybe as the category gets bigger, maybe it'll be a problem. But yeah, just do it. Just seriously, I highly encourage it. There's a lot of people who started from the 100 devs who've been doing stuff with Leon, who have started just streaming, and I catch people all the time. I love that. I love it. It's really good. It's a good way to start to submit what you know. It's a good way to get yourself out there. It's a good way to help learn even faster, and it gets your confidence up. I'm telling you, it gets your confidence way up. I actually did a mock interview. We did a mock interview for this panel that I was doing, and people wanted to see what a real engineering interview was like, and I hadn't been prepped for it at all, and we did some live coding, we did all these live troubleshooting and stuff, and it was super comfortable. It made it so much easier to do because I've been spending so much time doing this, so it was pretty dope. But I said go for it, just do it. What's up, Goku? All right, so leave it as Amazon Linux. You can leave everything as default. We don't need to change anything except for the key pair. The key pair is the one thing that we care about here, because remember, the scenario is that you spun up an EC2 instance and you no longer have the key pair that was originally set up with that instance. So I'm going to take it. I don't have any of these, but I'm going to create one. I'm going to create a brand new key pair simply because I want to show you exactly what's going to happen here. I'm going to create a new one with this button right here. And again, I'll call this, I don't want to put rescue in the name. I want to call it initial key, initial underscore key. Let's do that. It doesn't matter what type, but I would leave it as RSA, and make sure it's PEM, .PEM and not PPK. This is for something different. We don't need to use this anymore. .PEM is what you want. And create key pair. Remember, it's going to download the private key. Key pairs, SSH key pairs, two different things. The public key gets created and it gets stuck onto the server. Anyone can have the public key. Any system that you want to log into, you put the public key on that system. And you keep the private key. You keep it safe, you keep it private. So I'm going to save the private key to my computer right there. I know, Putty should be dead. Again, Windows has native SSH now, but people still use it. People still like it. It's really good for sessions. Like if you log into lots of systems and you got to save some sessions, Putty is still good for that. But that's about it. You can always set up an SSH config, but we don't want to do that. So make a key pair, and then everything else we can leave the same. We're not doing anything with the system. Leave everything else default. So I'm gonna launch it. It's going to come up and we're going to log into it just to make sure that we can actually get into it. So again, we can simulate that this is a system that we want to gain access to. All right. Pending, it usually gets from pending pretty quickly. I'm always astounded by the speed that EC2 instances are able to provision. It's so quick. And so if you don't remember, let's go ahead and get SSH into the instance. Doesn't matter which platform you're on. If you're on Mac, open up your terminal. If you're on Linux, open up your terminal. If you are on Windows, open up PowerShell, open up Command Prompt, or open up your WSL terminal if you are using that. How do we call our key? The way that we call our key is you need to know where you downloaded it to. So I hope you remember where you downloaded it at. And so actually, maybe I'll do it that way. So we don't have to worry about file paths. Go to where you downloaded it at in your file explorer. If you're I guess specifically, if you're on Mac, this will work as well. Find where you're at, where your key is at. So mine's in my documents, and I'm just gonna right click here and go to open in terminal. I think in Mac this also works, but you might have to hold Command and double click with your fingers. And wherever you are, and however you get to the menu, the right click menu, which I think it's a 2-finger tap on Mac, and click open in terminal so that it opens up from the command line, and that key should be here. So now what I'll do is we'll type in our SSH command. I'll make it a little bit larger so you can see it. The command is SSH to initiate the secure shell protocol. -I, this is how we specify the key. -I stands for identity or identity file. This is going to be the file that we're going to use to authenticate our identity. And so then you're going to type in the name of the file. So this one was called initial key. Yeah, I think I called it initial key. Initial key.pem. And Windows puts this path on there. Don't worry about that. Just type in the name of the key. And then you can type in EC2-user. So again, the way it's broken down is this first part over here is the command itself. So this is the command for the tool that we're using. So this initiates the SSH command. And then the -I here is needed. This is going to be what you're going to use to tell it that you're passing it an identity file rather than use a username or password. Then this is going to be, up next is going to be the path to that identity file. So this is going to be, I'm just going to write name of file for now, name of key for now. And then after that, it's going to be the user you want to log in as. To log in as, and then after the user to log in as, I don't want to delete this yet. I'm going to EC2 user at, and then what we're going to do is I copied it. You didn't see me copy it, but I'm going to go back to over here because you can't really see it. I don't want to delete it yet. But if you click the check mark next to your instance in the EC2 dashboard here, and scroll down a little bit, you can see this public IPv4 address. So public IP version 4 address, and you're going to click this little copy button or copy and paste this this IP address to log in as. Make sure you're not copying the private one. The private one will not work. We will talk about that. The public one is the one that you want. So copy it, and I'm going to paste it in again. So this is this right here is the IP. That was terrible. Is the IP address. So this is the anatomy of the command. Call SSH. Then tell it you're going to give it a identity file with the -I flag. So if you do not put the -I flag in there and pass in a file, it's going to prompt you for a username and password. And again, with AWS, for SSH, you cannot authenticate via username and password. So I got to give it a file, and then I'm going to give it the name of the file, and then I'm going to give it the user I want to log in as at the IP address of the server. That is the anatomy of that command. That's what we're typing in when we hit all that stuff. All right, so I'm going to hit that. The very first time you log in, it's going to say, hey, I don't know what that is. I don't know anything about this system. Are you sure you want to continue? I'm going to type in yes. And I am greeted with a message of the day. I'm greeted with some information, and I'm now logged into a new system. I'm no longer on, I'm no longer seeing the prompt from my computer. I'm actually logged into this AWS instance. Let's see. This is being done for me right now. Cool stream. I'll see you later. Peace out. Understandable. Have a good night. Looking forward to seeing you. All right. So we're all logged in. So we know that our key works. We know that our instance is working properly. Like I said, again, imagine we've got a sweet application running on here, which we don't have running on here. All right, cool. So if you want to log out, you can just type in exit or close the window or whatever you want to do. There's a million ways to do it. But I'm logged out now. So put ourselves in the mindset. Oh no, we have lost our key. And I'm going to go as far as to delete this key. I'm going to remove initial key .pem. I forgot I'm using Windows and I don't really know. I downloaded a cert instead of a PEM file for some reason. So Julian, I think that's because if you go back and try it again, it's probably you probably selected PPK instead of .pem on the create key screen. Yeah, it probably gave you a you probably downloaded a PPK, probably, I guess. Well, are you saying you downloaded a cert because it looks like a cert? It's probably a PEM file, actually. It might be a PEM file, actually. This is this looks like a TLS certificate, because it's very similar. The extension is cert. That's interesting. Does it look like this? Like if you open it in something, does it look like this? Yeah, if you're on a Mac, it's probably a PEM file. But open it up and see if it looks like this. If it looks like this, I shouldn't be showing this to you. But if it looks like this, you're fine. Good thing we're about to change this anyway. And I'm going to hope none of you are fast enough to type all that. All right, so only allows me to open in the on a keychain. It's probably, maybe try right clicking or double finger clicking it and opening it with like Notepad or something. Does Mac have Notepad? I'm not sure. What's the first time I see keychain? Yeah. I think it might be a PEM file still, but either way. So honestly, either way, the lab will still work. You won't be able to log in initially with this key, but the lab should actually work. We're about to make a new key, and so I actually think everything's still going to work for you. So I don't think it's a big deal that you can't get in this way. All right, so what do you do when you lost the key? What in the world? What steps do you take? Well, there are a number of options. So AWS now has lots of different ways for you to access an instance besides SSHing into it. That used to be the only way for the most part that you could get into it. Now there's a couple other things. You can actually do I don't even know if I can find it in here because I never do it. But there's a monitor and troubleshoot. There's this EC2 serial console. So imagine you're in a data center, and the way that you could access these things is you could actually connect through a serial cable as an old school form of connection. And so the serial console is kind of like if you were actually in the data center and had physical access to this system. They now allow you to do a serial console to connect through the serial port of your EC2 instance, but this only works if you set it up. So there's some permissions that allow for this. You've got to change some things to allow this to happen. A lot of people don't enable this by default. A lot of people don't know to come in here and do this. This is one way. This can save your butt. This can save you. And so if you lose your key and you have this set up, you can connect through this way. There's another one called, Instance Manager? I always forget the name of the services. But let me go into, there is place for volume, images and templates. Where's the other one? There's something that used to be in, man, my mind is going blank. Not Parameter Store. What is Parameter Store part of? Not Secrets Manager. Hold on, give me a second. Maybe it isn't Secrets Manager. A systems Manager. See, this is what happens when you're, again, long days. Everything's weird. Systems Manager. There's a way to log in through here, and I forgot the service name. This is another service where you have to Session Manager. There we go. All you got to do is got to see it. You just got to see it. Sometimes it doesn't stick in your brain. This is to show you. It's not all about memorization. But Session Manager. This allows you to create a secure session into your system right here from the web interface, from the console. Again, this is also something that needs to be set up. This is actually a little bit more intricate. It doesn't just need to be enabled. This is actually something where you got to actually set up IAM permissions to make this happen. And so it can be a little bit annoying to do so. But again, it's something that you can actually, you can set this up afterwards. And be fine, I'm pretty sure. But it's a little bit annoying to set up, not gonna lie. Manage role for it. But you got to remember to set it up. this is another way that you can access your instance. So these are you have some options here. There are actually a few other options. But that's all we'll talk about. Let's actually go fix it in the easiest, what I think is the easiest way to do so. This way can be problematic if you forget to do one of these steps. But here is how we would do it. Again, I told you a little bit more earlier. I kind of mentioned one of the ways you used to have to rescue, or the recommended way of rescuing, a lot of people still do this, is remember EC2 instances, the compute and the storage can be separate. Because EC2 is backed by, it has instant storage, which is ephemeral and can go away, but it's backed by EBS, elastic block storage. And so that elastic block storage can be disconnected and connected to other instances and things. So, there are some cool ways to, if you get locked out, to spin up another instance, to take that EBS volume, to remove it, to spin up something with a key and everything that works, that you have access to. Remove the attachment, connect it to another instance, get logged in, move data over, copy data over, replace things. There are ways to rescue it that way. That's a manual way of doing things. That is what you want to do if you don't have access to. Sometimes you can't do. Actually, not even gonna go that far. That is one way to do it. I'm only bringing that up to you right now. Even we're not doing it that way. The reason I'm bringing it up is because as you Google this, if you do run into this problem and you Google it, you will find guides teaching you how to do exactly that. The link that I gave you has a couple of options in here as well. Again, it's got this Instance Connect Systems Manager. It's also got Serial Console that you could set up. But the first way is through something called user data. Man, my mind is off right now, but it's all good. User data, EC2 instance user data. And so now you're learning a little bit more. This is something that's EC2 specific. This is AWS EC2 specific. So enter user data. User data is information that basically gets loaded into the instance at runtime. And so you can use this to run scripts to do specific things at runtime of the instance. And so basically you can take this data and put it in the server, pass it into the server, and it will run at runtime. And so we can actually use this to update the public key on the server. Okay. So remember, AWS instance key pairs, SSH key pairs. There's a private key, public key. You get the private key. The public key goes on every system that you want to be able to authenticate with. And so we can actually use the user data to basically update or overwrite the public key data that exists on the system and allow us entry into the system. And so let's get going with that. Let's see that in action. Let's follow the guide and talk about what's happening in here. So we have our system. Our system is up and running. Let me just pull it up, but we don't have access to it. So remember, I already deleted the key for this. I don't have this key anymore in my AWS keys folder. It's not there. All right, so I have no way to access it. I can go ahead and run that same SSH command again, but because that key is gone, it's going to give me all kinds of, it's going to tell me the key is not found and blah, blah, blah. No such file or directory, permission denied because I don't have that thing available. Great, let's figure out how to fix it. Step one, create a new key pair. So if I lose my key pair, the first thing I need to do is create a new key pair. So I'm gonna go in here and where do you do that? So I'm in the EC2 instance dashboard. So wherever you are, you can get back to EC2 by typing in EC2. You're here. You can create new key pairs by themselves. You don't have to make a new instance to do so. So I'm gonna go over here on the left. If you scroll down about 3/4 of the way, maybe. Yeah, about 3/4 of the way down, there's a network and security section. Makes sense. Networking and security. These key pairs are for security. So I'll click on the key pairs thing here. And here's my initial key. It's still there. I can still spin up instances that have this public key. That would be a bad idea because I don't have access to this key anymore. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete it because there's no need for it to be in here. I don't want to make the mistake of spinning up something that's using that. So I'm going to delete it real quick just for my own sake. There we go. Now it's gone. Now I'm going to create a brand new key pair. This is just the key pair that I can use to apply to a server. I'm going to call this recovery. I'll call this recovery underscore key. Sure, let's do that. RSA.pim, not ppk.pim. So I'll call it whatever you want. I'm calling it recovery key. I'm not going to give it a tag. That's all you got to do. Create key pair. It's going to download it for you. So there we go. I'm downloading it. Would you say there's a good amount of coding required for cloud engineering roles? No. No. I would not say that. There are, how do I want to approach this? People are getting mad at this. You do not need to learn how to code to do a cloud engineering role. What you will need to know, learning how to code is good. It will be helpful. What you'll likely face instead is, you'll likely face some configuration as code. Where you're going to need to be able to create what you would like in the cloud. Well, you'll need to be able to create the structures and be able to declare the resources that you want in the cloud via some type of configuration. This may be something like Terraform. This may be something like CloudFormation. Yes, I do think that is somewhat akin to coding, but I do think there's a pretty significant difference between configuration as code versus programming versus writing software. There's a different level of knowledge, and I think most people can pick up the configuration as code. And so it's going to feel like coding. If you're not someone who knows how to program, it's going to feel like you're programming. But it's much simpler. So you don't need to go off and learn how to code. You don't. It's much more important that you have a good handle on what the cloud is, have a good handle on the services that are available to you and how they fit together. That's much more important. You can do all of the, most roles, you can do most of the stuff from the console. You can do as much, you can usually do a lot of it from the console if you'd like, but there are a lot of roles that are putting forth configuration as code at the forefront. And I think it's a different skill set. I think it's a different skill set for sure. Yeah, more understanding systems design and architecture. I would spend more time learning that than learning how to code specifically. Yeah. It's always hard trying to explain the difference between configuration as code versus what I think people generally mean when they think of coding and programming. And they're very different. They're very different. They have some overlapping concepts. But they're very different. It's like, hey, you can, rather than doing what we've done here, rather than going into the console and creating a key pair, we could write a bit of code. AWS key pair. We could write a bit of configuration. We could write a bit of configuration that would achieve the same thing. It would actually create a resource inside of AWS for us, and it might look something like this. It might look exactly like this, where we say, hey, I would like to create a new key pair, and I would like to call it deployer key, and I want this to be the public key because I already have the private key. So it's a little bit different. It's more, again, it's keys and values, so it's configuration. There's less logic here, a lot less logic here, but there is some. So that is, yeah. And so you can do the same thing. Hold on, let's look at this. AWS, let's go Python. That'll be easier. CDK, key pair. Let's see if we can look at it from the CDK here. And so on the other hand, with code, you can achieve this the same way. This is also still more configuration as code, but you can see there's a little bit more that has to be done. This is doing the same thing with Python, and mostly it's just this, so it's actually not that much different. But like I said, this is still kind of configuration. But yeah, you can do it from the terminal. 100% you can do it from the terminal. Let's see, AWS CLI create key pair 100%. You can do it with this create key pair command. You can do it there as well. You can absolutely do it there as well. This is the second part of this class. The second, not half of this, not after this 22 weeks is done, we'll go into a bigger portion of AWS, and that'll be more of the AWS engineering. This is kind of get you familiar with the services to do the things. And so a lot of the command line stuff, we'll do some of it, but we're not going to do a ton of that until later. We will do some though. All right, let's keep going. So you can create a key pair a lot of different ways, but yeah, if you want to be a cloud engineer, worry about learn the cloud. Learn the cloud first. Focus on the cloud first, and you'll get to touch the rest. Like even when you're learning in the cloud, if you spend time getting good at it, it'll take you through labs and stuff where you're going to do a lot of hands-on stuff with configuration as code, and it's going to make a little bit more sense to you. All right. So first thing, I created a new key pair. I downloaded it. I have it on my system. All right, that's number one. Checkbox. Good to go. If you created the private key pair in the EC2 console, I have to get the public key pair for it. So again, remember, this says create a key pair. With a key pair, there are two. I downloaded one. There's only one thing I can download. AWS does not give you the public key. It only gives you the private key. But the private key is the one that you need to keep secret. The public key, it's called public for a reason. It can be passed around. It's okay for people to have the public key. And so you can actually generate the public key from the private key data. So if you have the private key, you can generate the public key. And so that's what we'll do here. I'm going to right click this and I'm going to open up a new link. But using the SSH keygen command, I can go ahead and I can get the public key. I can also, if you have access to get into the instance, which you don't, which is why we're doing this, you can actually get the metadata in a different way. But here we go. This SSH keygen command will give us what we need. So what I'm going to do now, and actually I don't know if this command comes by default on Windows machines. I know Windows machines have SSH by default. I don't know if they have SSH keygen installed by default, but let's find out. They do. Nice. So what you need to do is same thing, same way you SSH before. However you were able to get to your SSH key, do the same thing again. Open up the terminal there. And what you're going to do is you're going to type in SSH keygen -F. I think it's an A and an F. I never remember which these are. Y and an F, -Y -F, and then the key file that you're trying to generate the key from. Okay, so SSH -keygen -Y -F, and the name of my key is recoverykey.pem. This will take this file, it'll take a look at it, and it will generate the public key for me and cat it out to the screen. It will display it to the screen for me. And so here we go. This is the public key. Okay, this is the public key. And so now I have it. I'm gonna hold it right there. I'm actually gonna copy it into memory real quick, but into my buffer. But I'll leave it open right here because we're gonna need that a little bit later. Okay, so once you run that command, it'll take it and it'll spit all this information out. All right, so let's move on to number 3. So that was number 2. We created the new key pair here. If you did create it in the console, we need to retrieve the public key pair, the public key for it, and that's what we just did. So we have that. Open the EC2 console. We already have ours open. Stop the instance. Remember that I said the user data is something that's going to get loaded in at runtime of the instance. So for us to change it, for anything to take effect, we actually can't change it unless the instance is off. So we've got to stop the instance before we can update that EC2 instance user data. So I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to stop the instance. How do we stop an instance? Well, you right click it and click stop, or you click the little checkbox, you go to actions. Oh no, wait, instance state, stop. Either one. Stop instance. Yes, yep, user data runs every time it starts. So it can be problematic. You're gonna see what we're gonna do. It can be an issue if you inject user data that does something weird. Yeah. Yes, there are ways. There are ways to stop that. Yep, there are. We'll talk about that. We're gonna do something to stop this, and then we'll talk about how it's set up and how we can stop it. Better late than never. What's up, Coach Sean? Good to see you. Absolutely, I'm doing good. Doing good. A little bit tired. A little, busy weekend. I'm like, it's been so hot. I think that's the problem. It was ridiculously hot all weekend. It's crazy hot right now. I told you I have a pretty serious tan going on right now. It's pretty crazy actually. And I think the sun just wiped me out, but I'm good. So if you restart automatically, get a new IP. Yes, Gromit. That is something that a lot of people get really confused about when they're first learning. But yes, if you don't have an elastic IP, which is something we're going to talk about when we get to VPCs, even though it's a part of EC2, it will give you a new IP address. Okay, 85 here with high humidity and storm chances. Yeah, it's been not like deep into the 90s all weekend, and so it's been pretty hot. All right, so now the instance is stopped. It takes a while. I know it still says running, but that's because I haven't refreshed. It takes a little bit. The first time you stop it, I find that the first time you stop it, it takes a little while. And by a little while, I mean like 45 seconds. Then after that, it takes like 10, 15 seconds to stop every time. But here we go. It's stopped now. Now I can make some modifications to the user data. How do you do that? Well, you choose Actions, Instance Setting, Edit User Data. So I'm going to go back over. I'm going to put a little check mark next to it. You could right-click it, but I'm going to put a little check marks next to it. Actions. What's it? Instance Settings. No. Security. Monitor and Troubleshoot. Instance Settings. Yeah, it was Instance Settings. That's what they said. I just forgot that fast. Edit User Data. I also told you all it's super weird doing a lot of this stuff when you get into these cloud engineering roles, yes, you'll have access to the console, but you'll likely end up doing a lot more things not from the console. You'll be doing it through the CLI and maybe other tools. And so you'll be going in here to get information. You'll definitely spend lots of time in the console. But doing stuff like this, it's not something that I do every day. So it tells you the current user data. There is no current user data associated with this instance. We didn't give it any. We spun up a default instance. No user data gets loaded. But so we can copy it. If there was some, we could copy it if we didn't want to lose it. But new user data. This is what we want to do. Or we could modify. If we had a file, we could import a user data file if we'd like. But I'm just going to place the code here. Modify user data as text. And so let's look at what they're going to tell us to do. Copy the following script into the edit user data dialog box. So yes, you can do that. I highly recommend doing this somewhere else first, like Notepad or VS Code or something. So I'm going to just open up Notepad, find a little text editor to open this up in. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to copy this and let's look at what we're seeing here. All right, so we got some stuff. We've got content type, multi-part, mix, boundary, MIME version. All of these things are things that you learn about what they are over the years. Don't worry about them right now. Bunch of stuff here, bunch of information that's needed from the instance to get done what we need to get done. The things that matter are these things down here. What we need to do is actually, let's read it. Replace username with your username, such as EC2 user. You can enter the default username or enter a custom name if one was previously set up for the instance. So if you created other users you could log in as before on the instance, then you can actually change that user's public key, but you likely won't do that. And so you're going to need to use the user that you've been logging in as here. And then you're going to need to enter in that SSH public key pair down here. Okay, so you're going to need to paste that in right here. And that's why I say build it somewhere else first. Build it in your text editor or whatever beforehand. So let's go ahead and make the changes that we need to make. First change, obviously, is change username to EC2 dash user. All right, we made one big change already. Now, the next thing we need to do is to replace our public key pair with the key pair with the public key that we were able to retrieve from that SSH keygen command. Now, I hate that this article does not show you an example of what it's supposed to look like. Yes, it does just say public key pair here, but I think it would be better if they showed you exactly how you're supposed to paste it in. But let's go ahead and grab it. I've just done this before, so I know how to do it. It took a little bit of messing around with to figure out how to do it. But I'm gonna right click it, and then I'm going to paste it. I'm just gonna remove the words public key pair, and I'm gonna paste it in. And so it's gonna be super long. That's pretty annoying. Whoa, okay, scroll bar. It's gonna be pretty long. Leave it like that. It's completely fine. Just scroll back over, and so you should see a dash, a space, and then it should start with SSH dash RSA, and then all of your stuff. This part is optional, and I've seen this work, and I've seen it not work. So what I'm about to do is I'm gonna put at the end of the SSH key pair, I'm gonna put the name of the key that we're using. Okay, I've seen this. It won't affect. You'll be able to log in whether you put this here or not. Sometimes I've seen it update in the console the proper key that was being used. Other times I've seen it not update, so it can be a little bit weird. But I'm gonna go I'm gonna see what my key pair name was, which was recovery key, and over here I'm gonna put a little space, like I said, and just type in. Well, it's not letting me do anything. Oh, there we go. Space. Recovery key. I'm gonna type that in. Hopefully it updates from the front of the console. But let's go ahead and see if this works. What's up, Amazing Door? Just found this on Twitter and was wondering, is it worth for me to learn only one language? The only language I know is JavaScript. Well, JavaScript's a great language to know. If you want to do web dev stuff, that's great. If you think you want to do something else, you might want to pick up another language. But again, you can do. With Node, you can do pretty much everything. So I mean, I think it's fine learning only knowing one language, unless there's a specific role you're trying to get into. I don't think it's essential for you to learn a bunch of languages at all. Where did you source the intro video for class? I found that starting soon graphics I found somewhere free online, and then I just grabbed those random videos from YouTube. I just downloaded them from YouTube and just stuck them on there. So I'm glad you like it. I like it too. It's kind of a hodgepodge of different things all put together. All right, so you should have it looking like this now. Make sure you change that user to EC2 user, and then paste in that public key right here. All right, now that you got it together, I'm gonna take the whole thing. I'm gonna copy it. And it's good to have it. It's good to have it over here in a command prompt or something. I mean, in a notepad or something, in case I make a mistake and I need to do it again. I'll have it there, and I can modify it right from there, so I don't have to rebuild the whole thing. But I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna paste it right there, and so it's gonna do some wrapping for you. So that's nice. All right. So don't click this box because it's not base64 encoded. And once you have it pasted in there, make sure all the stuff you want is there. Then save it. Now, once you save it, it's going to take you back to the instance screen. Your stopped instance, take it, start it. And again, if we go back to our walkthrough here, it's going to tell you to save, start. So you start it. It's going to take just a few seconds to get started, to be back up and available. So it's pending right now. 3 more refreshes, it'll be back up. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Nope. So this isn't really programming. We're using AWS, so we're learning how to cloud compute. We're learning how to manage infrastructure using AWS, and we're learning kind of what tools they have available to you. And so right now, what we're doing is we're learning how to recover from if we get locked out of a server. So we spin up a server via AWS, and if we get locked out, there's only one way to authenticate. You can't use a username and password. You can only use SSH key pairs. And so we're figuring out what you do when you get locked out right now. So this instance is back up and it's running. So like I said, sometimes, and again, maybe if anyone knows why this is, I've never looked into this. It seems to be hit or miss for me at least. Sometimes I see the SSH key update in here. So if you scroll down and look at the instance details, where's the key at? Key pair name. It says initial key right now. I've seen that update. I've seen that change to be, as long as you created the key pair through EC2, I've seen it update, but it did not update here. No big deal. But now let's go ahead and see if we can now log in with our new recovery key. So initial key shouldn't work, but recovery key should work. But it's also worth noting, because you stop your instance, it should have a new public IP address. So go in here and I'm going to grab it. I'll grab it from right here. It's different from what it was before. And I'm going to go run that same SSH command that we ran before, but I'm going to swap out the IP address here. And I'm going to keep the old key here just to show you. I'm going to keep the old key here. I'm going to log in, and it is going to say, hey, permission denied. Initial key no longer works for you. Okay, so I'm like, oh, that's weird. I don't know what's going on there. Why does initial key no longer work? But remember, I've updated it to the rescue, to the recovery key. So now this time I'm going to try to log in with the recovery key, and hopefully look at that. So using the recovery key, we are now able to log into our system. We're able to get in, even though it's a different key than it's showing here. And that's something worth noting in your head. That's something worth remembering. You need to go figure out what to do, to get this to update. You can get it to update. There are ways to get it to update, but because it's not the top key in your authorized keys, possibly, yeah. How do you avoid doxing yourself or leaking secrets while streaming? Any tips? Dean, so I've done it many times. Definitely doxed myself, but I leak keys all the time. But often we're doing stuff with like AWS, and so like this is a kind of this is an AWS account I have specifically around this stuff. So like there are lots of limits kind of set in here. So that would keep me safe, but I usually just go delete stuff immediately if I do accidentally share. People have like blur screens and stuff. I have not set any of that up yet, but most of my stuff is designed around. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of stuff that I can share accidentally share because this computer is also for streaming only. I only use this laptop to stream, so there's really nothing on there. I don't do anything else on here anyway. So all the credentials are things that we generate when we're working, and then if I leak it, I'll reset it real fast or something. But I'm bad at it. I'm very bad at it. Let me be honest with you. It is something to think about though. It's easy to do. Very easy to do. Let's see. So I'm logged in. Authorized keys. I think you are correct. Initial key, recovery key. I think you're right. Was it Kumzi? Yeah. I think you're correct. I think that is the issue. I think that if I remove this, it will. I think if I remove this, it will show next time I restart it. That's good thinking. I bet that's right. Okay. So I'm able to log in. So that's how you recover. I'm now able to access what I need to access. Now I could do what I need to do to fix what I need to fix. I can figure things out that way. So that's probably the easiest way to recover. Again, minus those other options. So other options don't actually help you to recover. Though they just allow you access. If you should gain access those ways, you would still need to go in and basically manually update what's in your authorized keys. So you would still need to create a new key pair and do all this stuff if you wanted to continue to have access to that system. But again, those are Linux concepts. Like these are, a lot of this stuff is, even though we are working with EC2, the kind of understanding what's happening when you SSH in, what's happening with these authorized key pairs, these are Linux concepts rather than EC2 concepts. But the important part to know about EC2 again is that there's this paradigm called user data, which allows us to pass in data that will get initiated at runtime of the instance, and it'll allow us to make changes to the system if we need to set things up to help us do whatever we need to do. So we can utilize that tool to be able to go in and change data that already exists in our server so that we can get logged in. My boy, what's up? You're a newbie into programming and decided to start your journey with Python. Dope. Machine learning, even doper. I do want to get into machine learning. Now that I've gotten my Linux stuff going real good and I got this 3090 here, I might have some fancy stuff that I'm going to do. Any useful tips or maybe any kind of resources that may help? First resource, tips. I have tips. First tip, get slightly proficient from the command line. Have an understanding what you're doing from the command line. It'll make things so much easier when you start to go through tutorials and stuff. A lot of programmers skip getting decent at the command line. That's where I would say start. 2, learning isn't your learning doesn't need to be linear. So don't let running into a concept that is next up, don't let it stop you. A lot of people will run into a concept and don't have a lot of people to ask questions to, and they'll quit because they can't get past this concept thinking that, I need to be able to learn this before I can do stuff afterwards. The learning isn't linear. You can skip all kinds of stuff, and you can skip and focus on the thing that's at hand. If you have something you're trying to solve, if you have something you're trying to build, you can learn the things necessary for that. You don't need to learn everything in order. Some concepts you'll have to come back to. It's completely okay. Doesn't need to be linear. The third one is if you can, don't do it alone. Join Discords, join different online communities where you can get help. That's the biggest thing. It's the biggest thing, like where you can ask questions when you really need it. Don't spend too much time learning alone. Also, it'll help you be able to avoid. Generally, it helps you avoid imposter syndrome a little bit longer because you don't, rather than making up these ideas in your own head about where you should be and about where other people are, you'll really get to talk to people and they'll encourage you, and you'll see that that you'll come to me for help and I'll work with you for 2 hours, and you'll realize that this dude's been in the industry forever and he doesn't understand, like he didn't know how to fix this, what I feel is an entry-level problem. It happens all the time. Like I'll help people with like coding challenges for for a job, and like I'll be like, oh, I don't I don't know what to do here. Let's work on it. Let's figure it out. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I messed up on. Like in my head, I just assumed everybody was so amazing and I didn't ask for help and I struggled through problems. Like so many resources out here. Just reach out to different people. All right, so that's lab number 1. Let's go to let's take a break. Let's take a 5-minute break. And let's go to lab number 2. And if you have any other questions, I'm not taking a break. You all should take a break, go to the bathroom, get some food, and we can talk about whatever questions you all might have. Amazon provides AWS guides for free. Yes, so AWS has tons of documentation. Some of it's good. None of it's great. To be honest, none of it is great. Like I said, I think that this is updated in 2021. You can actually contribute to this. This is all on GitHub, and so I actually, what, in the amount of time. Watch this. Let's see. Actually, this is the Knowledge Center, so this might not be here. AWS Knowledge Center, GitHub. I don't know if you can update the knowledge center. Open guides. Yeah, I think this is a little bit different, but let me see. You can actually contribute to the AWS documentation. It is open source. It's just not very good. Yeah, it's just not very good. And so like, I really would like for them to put an example of what this should look like once you have pasted the stuff in, because I specifically remember the first time I did it. Like, do I put public key pair underneath this? Like, do I put it in quotes? Like, what do I do? And so, you know, it could be super confusing. Quick comparison of Azure and GCP. All right, very quick comparison of the three. AWS is the most feature-filled, is by far the most feature-filled cloud, like by a pretty good margin. AWS literally will build a solution for any of their customers who need it, and it doesn't need to be good. They will just build something for you to use to keep you in the system. They have lots of good services, and they've got a lot of half-baked services as well, but lots of different services. The most mature cloud, the most options, they've got the biggest market share. They've got the most people kind of using their product. Azure's dope as well. Azure is also is a pretty mature cloud, especially compared to all the other clouds out there. But again, not quite as mature as AWS, but obviously a little bit more enterprise focused. They've got a lot of integrations between their other stuff. You know, there's been the big, you know, the big push for Teams and stuff. You're seeing Microsoft Teams, all that other stuff. Like, they've got the whole enterprise game on lock, and they have tools and they have specific things that they've built to cater to enterprises. And they've got, again, they were already in the enterprise space, so they really knew how to infiltrate and do well there. For the past few years, I think they've actually generated more revenue than AWS, but they don't have more market share than AWS. They're not bigger than AWS, but they are a significant revenue generator. Good cloud, less jobs, less companies are utilizing them, but you can get, because it's a little bit more niche, I find that you can get paid a little bit more. GCP is like the developers cloud. That's what they like to call themselves, the developers cloud. They by far, out of the big three, have the least amount of useful services for kind of big time stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think you could get what you need to get done there. But yeah, I mean, I find that the ethos of their design has been, I think they spent a lot of time trying to make the development experience good on there, which is problematic when you're trying to sell to corporations and companies. Like, they don't really care. They don't care about what the developers feel. So yeah, I mean, solid, not nearly as many services, not nearly as many jobs, not even close to as many jobs. Any advice for learning Docker past the basics? Done a 4-hour course on LinkedIn, but still feel as if I don't know its ideal use cases. Fenton, phenomenal question. The issue with Docker, the issue with people learning Docker is context is so difficult to get, because the context of using Docker is like, I feel like you already have to have an understanding of kind of systems administration or systems engineering to kind of get started, to feel its use cases are valuable. You kind of got to know how things are done now. You kind of have had to install a programming language runtime on your computer and try to get all the dependencies installed and try to make this application that you're installing there run. But even after all that, it still doesn't run properly because you're still missing some other dependencies and stuff like that. Past the basics course, I think the best way to get to understand how it's valuable and its usefulness is for you to do the same thing, to do the exact same thing natively on an instance. So like spin up an EC2 instance, spin up a DigitalOcean instance, spin up a Linode instance, and find some application, find some thing that you want to run on your system and install it natively on the system, and then do the same thing via Docker. And it might help, maybe, but yeah, I think that's super interesting. Like, I don't know if I would know how to, sometimes it's hard for me to explain to people why Docker is so great. If you don't understand if you don't understand the problem that it solves. Like if you haven't faced the problem that Docker is trying to solve, it's hard to make it feel valuable or relevant, for sure. But like Kubernetes, Kubernetes. Let me be honest with y'all. Kubernetes is often not as valuable as people want to make it. Kubernetes is dope and what it can do. I just don't. I think most people don't have the problem that it does solve. But at its core, what Docker allows you to do is to be able to build something once, to make it, to figure out how to make it work one time and run it everywhere. That's the real benefit of Docker. It makes applications portable. Let me figure out how to get it to run in Docker, and once I can get it to run in Docker, it'll run anywhere Docker's installed, and that means it doesn't matter what kind of operating system I'm running on. As long as I can install Docker of the same version or better, it will work. So that's the use case, to make it easier for applications to be portable. You can talk about all the scaling and stuff. Like, yes, the stuff's great. The main thing is to make applications portable. Azure Blueprints make me angry, and that's not a desired state, or ARM templates, whatever it's called. Yeah, I mean, ARM templates aren't fun, but neither is CloudFormation. Both of them do it poorly, to be 100% honest. That's why tools like Terraform have taken off. Cloud service names sound like teenagers name them with paintball markers. They do. There's Thieving Bullet. I agree with you. I don't know why cloud service names are ridiculous. Azure does service names much better than AWS does them, though. At least they call them exactly what they are for the most part, which makes it super easy. Long story short, Docker, you can have an app running with 1 or 2 commands. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes it can be tough to put together that command, though. I managed to get a PIM file once I run the SSH command. Dope. It works on my machine, then it ships to your machine. Thus Docker was born. Yeah. So that old problem was, hey, I'm a developer or I'm a systems administrator or whatever. I got it running on this machine. I did a bunch of work to get it running on this machine, but I want you to test it out. I want you to be able to contribute to it. I want you to be able to work on it. And when I give it to you on your machine, it doesn't work because you're missing things. There's things that I forgot to document that I downloaded. There's stuff that was already on my computer that I didn't download because it was already there. And I didn't think about that to tell you that you needed these things because I didn't have to download it. So I wasn't thinking about it. And so, yeah, it's easy for an application to work on one computer and not another. Because they usually require so many different things to work properly, and Docker solves that problem. Makes it so you don't gotta care about none of that stuff. Not only that, but build different environments at the same time. Yep. When I type yes for the fingerprint, I get warning, unprotected private key file. Julian, great. Thank you for bringing that up. If you get that command, all you're gonna do is type in chmod 400 700. I don't think 700 will work. It might work because it's just you. 700 might work. I think you just need the 2 zeros. I either do 400 or 600. 400 safer. 7, it's fine. Like, it's fine right now. The 00s are basically it's saying that the file is too open. This is a security file. Your permissions are too open. So you're going to do chmod 400 600 700, whatever you want. Then you're going to do file name .pim. So whatever you call the file name .pim, and it will do that. Or you could do that, Coombsy, 100%. You could do that. So chmod file name. I asked chmod 400 when it was on my Windows machine. It made me edit the properties. So that's interesting, Finchen, because that's something that we've noticed. Like I've been using Windows a lot lately, but not a lot for I've been using Windows a lot, but I haven't done a lot of development stuff in Windows. I'm more of a Linux guy, but it hasn't made me change. It makes me change it if I try to do it in Linux. But when I just download it, when I download a new PIM, if I SSH from Windows, it just works. It just lets me in. I haven't had to change permissions in Windows yet at all, which is pretty cool. Maybe it's a Windows 11 thing. I don't know. Probably, probably not a good thing security wise, but hey, is what it is. All right, so the next lab. What time is it? It's getting late. Let's do. Just in case we run out of time, I'm gonna put up a poll. /poll. Let me see if I remember how to do a poll. Which one do you want to do? Which lab? Host a website, or do you want to attach or add additional storage? And there we go. So a poll should be up. If you're on mobile, it probably won't work. But if you're on anything else, pick a lab. We have two labs here. We might be able to get to both. I'll go a little bit faster through these. But in case we run out of time, would you rather learn about hosting a website on EC2 or adding storage? I will say a lot of people have already voted, and it looks like host a website is going to be the winner by far. Yeah, because nobody's done adding additional storage to your server. So cool. Then let's go ahead and do that. So this is good. This works. Let's use a brand new. Let's start a brand new server. Okay. We're not going to use that one that we just spun up. So go ahead and delete the server that you just had now, so it doesn't take up any more of your credits. So go ahead and right click and click terminate. So right click and click terminate, and that'll get rid of that instance. And let that go ahead and get shut down. You can also just stop it if you want to mess with it later. You can also just stop it, and it won't use up any of your free hours. Yeah, we didn't put anything on it, so storage shouldn't cost you anything either. All right, so I'm going to launch a new instance. There's going to be one thing that we have to do different here from running things on the web. Let me show you. All right, let's talk about web servers really quick for 2 seconds, and I'll put the slide in the Google Classroom. Web servers and traffic management. So what is a web server? A web server simply stores and delivers the contents for a website. Okay, so a web server stores and delivers the contents for a website. This is texts, images, videos, all of that stuff. That's all a web server is. And it is a, whoops. No. Why'd it go back? And so this web server, you might think it's some kind of special kind of computer, and it's not. Computers are computers. A web server is just a piece of software. It is literally a piece of software running on a computer. So for the most part, a web server is no different than your computer. Imagine your computer is running Linux, but even if it's not, even if you're on Windows, Mac has a web server that you can install on it as well. Imagine a computer with an operating system installed on it, and in that operating system, there's a piece of software installed on it that allows it to be able to respond and serve web requests. And so you have a bunch of options for these. These are some of the most common ones. This is probably the biggest web server in the world. Biggest is because of the way technology has changed. It's I bet it's pretty hard to say what's the most used, but I willing to bet it's still Apache by a large margin. The reason being is because most of the internet is run off of WordPress. The WordPress is a significant percentage of the internet, and Apache is the web server used to run WordPress. So Apache, it's tried and true. It works really well, specifically for dynamic content like WordPress. So it's pretty dope. Nginx. Okay, Nginx is pretty dope as well. Nginx has been around for a long time. It's been popular, but nowhere near as popular as Apache. But in recent years, because of containerization, because of Kubernetes, because of the way that we do things now, it's become incredibly popular. And mostly used as a proxy rather than a web server. So Nginx still obviously like a big piece of software, but now it is used a lot as a proxy. We'll talk about proxies in a second versus a web server, but just another one I want you to know about. Apache Tomcat, this is for Java based applications, but it's super popular as well. Microsoft, if you're using Windows Server, it's got something called IIS built in, and I think that stands for, every time I look it up, Internet Information Services. I only know that because I started typing in it. Yeah, Internet Information Services. This is Microsoft's. This is their built-in web serving application that they have. These are reverse proxies. These can be used as reverse proxies. Yes, some of them. Really, all of them can be used as reverse proxies, but they are web servers. There's a free version and a not free version of Nginx. That's correct. And I think the not free version is wildly expensive. Pretty sure it's wildly expensive. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I thought it was. So learn Red Hat plus Apache. I will be employable anywhere. I mean, it'll help. And again, Apache, like Apache and like learning Apache and learning Nginx, this entails understanding how the web works and then learning about how to configure them. That's what learning them is. Yes, I do think if you got a good handle on Red Hat and Linux administration via Red Hat and Apache, I think you will be employable at a lot of places. Wonder how much Red Hat fell off after they did that CentOS nonsense. I mean, probably more than you would expect because there's so many other options nowadays. Man, I mean, back in like 8 years ago, people no one was touching anything but CentOS. I won't say nobody, but companies were really averse to using like Ubuntu servers. But I think not just that. I think Amazon Linux has had a big significant impact on the usage of Red Hat and CentOS, and I think Microsoft also has their own version that they built. But yeah, you hate yourself, you use art. Yeah, I mean, yes. If you hate yourself, I agree. If you want to learn, use Arch once. After that, you're only going to use it if you hate yourself because it's a lot. Okay, so a web server, and so let's install a web server live. It's really easy to install a web server. Very, very easy to install a web server. Let's do it. Let's do a web server live really quick. Let's go ahead and spin ourselves up a brand new AWS instance to do this on. So I'm gonna go to launch instance. We are gonna have to do one thing different. It's not all defaults this time. We're gonna have to do one different thing. So I'm gonna call it Camp Cloud Web Server. All right, Camp Cloud Web Server. Quick start. I will leave it on Amazon Linux. That's fine for me. Free tier eligible. 64-bit. Leave everything as is. T2 Micro. That's the free tier eligible server. I'll leave it there. Key pair name. I'll just use the one that I just downloaded. Recovery key. Just because. Makes it easy. I have it available. I know where it is on my system. Here's where we have to make some changes to properly do what we need to do. We need to poke a hole in the firewall. So we talked about security within Amazon. We talked about how things are set up. By default, Amazon blocks everything. They block all forms of communication from your server minus SSH. Okay, so we talked about ports. We talked about applications running on ports. So they're blocking all the ports except for the one that is responsible for SSH. And so right here, this button says allow SSH traffic from anywhere. So that doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can log in. You can log in via SSH if you need to. Now, this didn't used to be the case, but now they've give you some easy options to set this up. What you are modifying here, what this whole section is doing, is modifying security groups. Okay, so if you would like people to be able to access your servers or to communicate with your servers from the outside through a specific port, you must open up that port in the security groups. Okay, you must make a rule in your security group to allow that. Luckily, they know most people want to use this for getting traffic from the internet. How does the internet run? The internet works over, isn't it no protocols here? I don't care about load balancing. Let me give you, hold on. HTTP. Let's do this. Web servers, traffic management. Is it the same thing? Hold on. What else was here? HTTPS. Waddle part 3. I just looking for 1 or 2 slides for y'all real quick. No. All right. Oh, no. This is what I'll search for. Hold on. The actual words. Hyper, text, transfer. I think there's something in here. Confident there's something in here. Internet, DNS. Here we go. Real quick, we're gonna talk about this. So when we talk about the internet and serving content over the internet, these are the protocols that are going to allow us to do this. So one, what is a protocol? Protocol is simply it's simply a set of instructions. Okay, that's all a protocol is. It's nothing else. You might hear the word protocol and think, oh, that's some kind of fancy tech thing. No. All a protocol is a set of instructions for doing a thing. And so these protocols are a set of instructions. They're a set of paradigms that allow us to be able to transfer data over a network and read it on the other end. And so the way that we're transferring data is through Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or HTTP. Okay, this is the web communications protocols for sending and receiving text-based messages, and they run over port 80 by default. So whenever you go to a website, okay, and you all have seen HTTP and HTTPS before. Luckily, browsers have gotten cool and they start to hide some of the stuff from you. But at the front of all of these, you'll start to see these URLs. You'll see HTTPS://. This tells, when you type that in there, this tells you what protocol this is making the request over. Okay, it's actually making this over the HTTPS protocol. And again, the HTTP is the protocol of the web, but HTTPS, on the other hand, is the same protocol but secure. It allows data transfer between server and a computer that's encrypted. So it allows the data to be obfuscated and jumbled up so that if someone should intercept that data, they won't be able to just read it. It'll be in a format that they can't really read, and they'll have to decode it if they want to read it. And so this really is the default standard now, but the default internet port is port 80. That's not encrypted. That's standard internet, not secure. When you are making requests to HTTPS websites, which is the norm now, at Google, actually, I think Chrome actually won't let you make non-secured requests to most websites. This runs over port 443. So these are the 2 ports of the web. This is what your browser will do. Okay, it'll make a request over those lanes of communications, either port or 443. So your server must be listening for connections on port 80 or 443 or both. Okay, either one. There's some fanciness you can do. You know, your web server doesn't have to be running on those ports, but then you've got to do some extra things to make that happen. You've got to do some proxying and all that other stuff. Yes, Code with Sean, it's a good protocol. I love it. And so yes, if you can serve over other ports, but if you serve over other ports, you've got to do exactly what Coombsy is saying. You've got to specify what port to connect over. And so when they have that protocol at the front here, it's telling it what port to connect through. And I could actually change the port if I'd like, but that would be annoying for people to use. So yeah. A TLS certificate is something set up by the companies hosting the web server so the people visiting with your browser encrypts traffic. Yeah. So whenever you go to a website like Google and it has this little lock over here, the same way, a similar way to what we're doing with SSH keys. There's a system in place with these certificate files that allow it to encrypt and decrypt the data as you make requests, and it's pretty cool. And they're just files. The files are very similar to the public key and private key that we've already been using to authenticate with the servers. It's pretty dope. And they just encrypt the traffic in transit and then allow your computer to decode it and vice versa. So all the web server is doing is it's serving web data through web protocols. It's able to listen and to respond to requests made over web protocols. And it's able to respond accordingly. And so let's go ahead and let's set Nginx up. And so I put that in the Google Classroom. Hosting a website. It's got some commands here. This should work for Amazon Linux because Amazon Linux is Red Hat based. This gives it to you for them both. And so I'm going to do this first command. What this is going to do is it's going to allow us to, it's basically going to open up the amount of things that we can install. It's gonna basically add a repository to our system that's going to allow us to. It's basically going to tell our computer, hey, there's another place where you can go to look for files to install, and there's cool things there that you can get. So let's take that and let's make sure that we're logged into our system that we just spun up, and then we're going to go ahead and run that command. So let me get logged in. Actually, I don't even have the system yet. So we want to allow traffic from the internet. Go ahead and click just the bottom one. You can click them both. It's fine if you click them both, but the bottom one is all we need. We are not going to be able to set up HTTPS today because that takes a little bit more work. There's a lot more work actually that you have to do to make that happen. And so just make sure these are checked, specifically this one. And then everything else is fine. We don't need to change anything else and launch it. So now when this gets spun up, we'll be able to access the server over SSH, also over HTTP and HTTPS. So I'm going to grab the IP address for it and I'm going to get logged in. So let's do our SSH command -I. Nope, recovery key. The user, still EC2-user, @ paste in the new IP address and hit enter. Hold up, it's warm in here. Hold on, I got a big fan next to me, which is nice. Yes. Hold on. All right, cool. Let's just make sure it's not gonna make me too cold. But I was getting warm in here. Are we going to try hard and doing Route 53 ACM? We will. We actually will be doing some Route 53 and ACM stuff. I think in 2 weeks. I think next week is S3, then S3 Lab. It's 3 weeks, and then I think we're doing Route 53 and some ACM stuff. And we're actually going to combine many of the services that we've already learned. So we will be doing some of that, just not today. All right, so I'm logged into the system. Normally, first thing that you want to do, if you're not following the Linux course that we're doing, first thing you want to do, I'm going to do a yum. I'm going to do a sudo yum update first, just because this is going to make sure that I have all the up-to-date packages and things on my system. So it's sudo yum update, and I'll paste that in here if you want to copy that. This will allow me to just update the packages on the system. This is generally good practice when you first get a system installed. You should normally look at the packages being installed. It's actually installing a new kernel. I'm not going to reboot, so it's fine. That added -Y if you're a wild man, absolutely. So it got a bunch of stuff updated. It's just good to do that to get everything up to date. If you're on Ubuntu or a Debian-based distribution, it can be essential to get lots of things, most things installed. So So it's a good habit to get into. But so I ran an update first just to get going, and now we can follow the guide that we have. So we're not on Red Hat Linux, but we are on a related distribution. And so I'm gonna go ahead and first add this REPL, this EPEL release repository. So I'm gonna copy that command. And actually first let me give you all, if you all are not in the Google Classroom, I'll give you the link in case you wanna get there yourself. Well, let's go ahead and take it. Let's paste it. It's gonna go through, all good. Oh, actually, let me see. No package. Oh, so Amazon Linux is a little bit different. So they actually say, hey, not something that we can do here, but I think this is what you want. I think you want the EPEL release, and it's available on Amazon Linux. So it actually gives us another command to run, Amazon Linux Extras. So there's a different way to do it here. And so I'll run that instead. And it'll allow us to install what we need. Cool. And so I'll give you a second to try to get that done. Basically, it enabled a bunch of things for us. And actually, I think if we run another update, it's going to update some stuff. But cool. Let me move this to the other screen. Let's move this to desktop 3. All right, cool. So now I can just go back and forth. There we go. All right. So now that we've added this, I'm going to do another Yum update because now it's got a different place where it can get stuff from. And so it might find some additional updates on the system. All right. Oh, wait, sudo Yum update. Spell it correctly. And even though we just updated, because we gave it a new repository, a new place to look, it says, hey, I got some stuff that I can update for you. And so I just got to hit Y a couple times. Every time it asks me, just hit Y for yes and hit enter. And it's just installing some Python 2 stuff for us, which probably don't need. Well, I mean, we definitely don't need, but again, just want to get the system all up to date. All right. And once we do that, because we've now added this repository, we can simply just install Nginx. And so Nginx is the one that we're going to use. Nginx to me it's got the easiest configuration options. And it's easiest to get up to speed with right up front. But like I said, yes, Nginx will work for most things, but it's not the best for everything. There's some things that it really excels at, and there's some things that it's not the best for, but will work for. Like you can absolutely run WordPress from using Nginx rather than Apache, but Apache is a little bit better for dynamic content, things like WordPress. Nginx is amazing it's super fast for static stuff. It serves them really, really quickly, so it's a pretty good tool for that. What's the benefit of using Amazon Linux over another distro? Great question, Wiz. The advantage is that Amazon Linux, free, yes, and it's got specifically the thing that you want is that it's got a bunch of AWS services already installed on it. Things like, hold on, let me go back over to it. If I were to type in AWS, it's got the AWS command line already installed by default. It's got a number of tools. It's got a number of things that, people normally want to use. It's got it already set up and installed by default on the system. And so it does save you time, or it can save you time. Yeah, it can save you a lot of time actually. But they generally like to include things that they see that their users are using a lot. Yeah. Ubuntu doesn't have that. Yeah, you got to install it manually. So other distributions, AWS, it will be nice to have the AWS CLI installed so you can do things. You can interact with your AWS account and resources, and this has it automatically. And there are a number of other tools that it's the same thing for. Also, it's literally row 7. Yeah, so it's also like it's Red Hat based. cat/etc Red Hat release. Oh, they don't have a Red Hat release here. Interesting. I assume they still would because it was based off of that. Interesting. But yeah, it's CentOS, Red Hat. It's something that people are very used to. And it's CentOS 7. It's Rails 7. So it's got a lot of the more familiar features and the more familiar setup. Cat Etsy. I don't see Etsy release either. Nope. Yeah. Thought it would give me a little information. Thought it would give me something. But phenomenal question. Really, really good question. Okay, so now we just got to install it. So sudo yum install nginx. And it's going to go through. It's going to tell you all of the dependencies and things that's going to install to get this working. So I'm going to click yes, and I'm going to install it. So here's just for your understanding, it's good to step back whenever you're doing a tutorial. I think one of the things that sucks about doing a tutorial is it's hard to step back and understanding what's happening conceptually from the top. The stuff that we're doing now, this is Linux stuff. This is not necessarily EC2 stuff. The only thing that's been EC2 specific so far is that for you to serve content over the web, you must open up you must allow access to the ports that are necessary. And so by default, port 80 and port 443 are the two things that serve data over the web. And we must open up rules in our security groups to allow that. Amazon has made that very, very easy for us to do with those checkboxes. Okay, so that's the only EC2 thing that we've had to learn. If you want to serve content over the web, I must allow us to do so through our security group. Great. This has been Linux stuff, but what's happened conceptually from a Linux space? What we've done is we've updated the packages on the system. Then we've told our package manager, we've given it a new place to look for packages. And then because we did that, we're able to install Nginx. So we just got Nginx installed in our system. So we've installed the program on our system. Now that we've installed it, we've got to start it up. Okay, so we installed it, but it's not running. There are distros where it does run as soon as you start it, but let's go ahead, and now that we've installed it, let's go ahead and start it. And here's the command to start it. All right, this command, systemctl, system control. This is how you're gonna do things on Linux. Systemctl start the name of the service. And so you can actually do a bunch of other things. If you want to stop a service, it's system control stop service, system control status service, okay? Restart service. And so you can issue different commands, but this is how we start a service from the Linux command line. You can use dog rather than cat as command to view files. Hold on. Dog, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Same syntax. From your console, you probably install it. Well, I think someone showed us Bat last time, which was dope. Bat was pretty cool. Really cool, actually. Really, really cool. That's dope. I like that. All right, so now that we've got it installed, we started the service up, and now it should be running. They allow us to see it by running same command but status instead. So let's check the status. So instead of start, we're gonna do system control status, and it's going to return the status to us. So if you're interested in learning more about what we're doing now, so this is the systems administration portion of Linux. Like if you're trying to get into the cloud engineering game, learning Linux is going to be super helpful because you are going to be doing some things that we're doing now. You might not have to do a ton of it at all, but some things that we're doing now, we're almost done. We only have like 2 more weeks, I think, left, maybe 2 or 3 more weeks of the Linux Waddle course, of the DevOps course. After that, we're going into a SysOps course, which is all about systems administration. So if you want to learn more about what we're doing now, make sure to tune into that because we're going to be doing a lot of sysadmin stuff. But so now we've got our stuff installed. Now we have our service running on our system. So if you want to know how to see if a service is running, you check the status of it. Okay, there's other ways to do it, but I'm just trying to give you some easy ways to remember some of the things that we're doing here. So we're checking the status, and it says active running. It's all loaded. Everything's good to go. What's nice about this now is if it is running, we can now go to the IP address of our service to see if it works. Okay, so let's find our IP address again. I'm gonna go here. If we paste that into the browser, your browser makes requests over web protocols. So when I type in this IP address, it's going to make a web request to my server, and because now I have a web server installed on this computer that's at this IP address, it's going to know how to respond. It's listening for connections right now. When I make this request, the server is going to get it. That web server is going to process it, and it's going to return the proper information over those protocols. And so when I type it, look at that. Thank you for using Amazon Linux 2. Now that you have it installed, find announcement discussions, also try AWS documentation. That is not what I expected to see, if I'm honest with you, but completely fine. This doesn't look like the Nginx page. There's a lot of things that we can do to confirm this. Hold on, let me type that in again. Let me make sure it didn't not secure. Interesting. All right. Very interesting. That's really not what I expected to see. Let me do a little experiment really quick. Let me stop our web service, our web server, and let's see if we still get data back, or let's see what kind of response we get when a web server is not running. Okay, so we stopped it. Let's check the status again. It failed. It's not working. Okay, so let's see what kind of response we get. If I refresh, this is what I get. The site cannot be reached. Refused to connect. The reason it refused to connect is because there's nothing listening over that protocol for communication. There's nothing listening over port 80 the way that we're trying to access this. That's why I can't connect. Error, connection refused. It doesn't know what to do with it. It doesn't know what to do. So I started back up and refresh. Here we go. This is very interesting. The Nginx, this is weird to me, to be honest. but the Nginx welcome page, it is different on different distributions and stuff. It's interesting that this one is for Amazon Linux. It looks better on other systems. There's a better page. But okay, so we are officially serving content over the web. This is a website. This is a website. We could actually go in and we could change this if we want. And just to show you, websites are just files. I'm gonna find it really quick. I don't think Vim is on here. Yes, Vim is on here. Vim/var. This is probably not located here. It's probably at, I know that Nginx is actually at a new, I know it's not where it used to be. All the stuff before used to be at SC Nginx, but I know it's somewhere else now. But there's maybe it's not. Nginx.conf. Where is the default? User share Nginx modules. Okay. Interesting. User share Nginx modules at conf-d. All right. So what you're looking at here, I just went into one. This is an Nginx configuration file, okay? A lot of information here. We don't need to spend time with this. And actually, maybe I might do a one-day class specifically about Nginx configuration, because I get asked about this stuff all the time. But there's a lot of stuff here, but nothing crazy. There's no wild things here. You don't know what all of it means. You don't know what all of it means, but this is what an Nginx configuration file will kind of look like. And all it is now is memorization to figure out what each of the sections means and take a look at some of the options that you can put in there. You obviously won't remember all of them. You don't need to, but just having a general understanding of the types of things that you can do. Yes, I see user share Nginx HTML. Yep. And so you can get into this. And so what Kumse is saying is right here, the root of the server. So it's listening on port 80. So we could change that port if we wanted to. And this is actually listening over port 80 for IPv6. Server name, this is gonna kind of catch all for everything. And the root of the system says, this is where I want you to go. When you receive a request over port 80, I want you to go ahead and serve up the files that are here. So user share Nginx HTML. And I'm gonna modify that file, user share Nginx HTML. And there's going to be an index.html here. And this is the page that we're looking at. I'm going to change some of it here. Thank you for using. I'm going to say, we only used this because Amazon told us to, and because we wanted to learn. Okay, so I made some changes to some text. W is gonna save. Nope, I gotta redo that. Q. Darn it. I gotta change it again. I'm just gonna change it to a bunch of letters. Watch this. Whoa, 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 whoa. And when we save that, we've modified some HTML. HTML is hypertext markup language. This is a way to be able to represent data and information over the web, text, really a way to mark up our text. And if I refresh it, look at that. I'm now a web dev. I'm a web developer. I just developed on the web. I've literally changed and updated a website. Very, very exciting. Now, that's cool and all. That's very, very exciting, but that is this is useless. That's a default page that comes along with Nginx to let you know that it's running. What we're gonna do is we're gonna set up an actual website. So in the labs, in the labs section here, I gave you a link, and I gave you a link to an HTML template. Okay, it's HTML5 template, and so it's going to be a website template that we can use. When you click on it, it downloads. But I'm not going to take that. I'm going to right click. I'm going to right click this, and I'm going to copy this link address. I'm going to take this, and we're going to download it to the system itself. What's up, Kachi? What's going on? We are learning. We're doing a little lab here. We're getting a website set up on Amazon's EC2 service. We're learning about setting up web servers. We just installed Nginx, and now we're going to configure it to work how we want it to work. So I'm going to do it the hard way. The easy way would be for me to do to replace the files that are that the Nginx is already serving up. So let me actually cd to user share Nginx HTML. So in this directory, in this user share Nginx HTML, thanks for coming through. I could just delete this stuff and put my files there, and it would serve my files instead. Something that you're seeing here is the file that it's serving. You might say, how did he know it was the index.html? The index file is the file that a web server kind of picks up by default. This is the common name for it, index. Even if it's a different type of file, index.php, index. Whatever, the index file is going to be the thing that gets picked up by the web server to serve first, unless otherwise stated. By default, it's going to look for index files. Okay, and so we could, we could just remove all this stuff and replace it. Again, everything in Linux is just a file. So you put files in the right place and it will work. Instead, we're gonna change this to work a little bit differently. So what we're gonna do is first, normally the old place that that was gross. The old place that everyone used to put all of their websites at was in /var/www/html is where people used to put their stuff. Now, this doesn't exist right now, so we're going to learn a little bit of Linux commands. We need to create that file. So to create that directory, okay, we're going to create the var www/html directory. We are going to go mkdir. That is the command to make a directory. So make a folder. Then I'm going to do a -p. If you've never seen the -p before, that stands for parent. So what it will do is if you put in a file path and a directory, so actually right now, if I try to make var www/html, look at that. I'm going to get an error. And when I try to make it, it says, hey, I can't make I can't make that directory. And the reason I cannot make that directory is because there's no such file directory at /var/www/html. And the reason that exists is because we know there's a var directory. I can cd to /var. We know there's a var directory there, but there's the www directory does not exist. Okay, so the P, so I'm gonna go back one to where we were. I'm gonna go mkdir. So let's clear this out. -P. What the -P will do is it'll create every parent directory I need it to create to get to where I want to go. So if I put 50 directories here that don't exist, it will create every single one of those for me. So I will say, please create /var/www/html for me. HTML. So this is going to create two directories. It's going to create www and it's going to create HTML. So I'm going to hit that. Permission denied. That's because we need to escalate our privileges. We need to become the super user of the computer. And the way that you do that is sudo and run the same command. If you ever run a little Linux tip for you, those out there who are learning Linux, a little Linux tip. I've done it before today. Sudo ! Or sudo bang bang. What this means is it'll take the last command that you ran and it'll basically run it as the root user. So if you don't want to type it back in, you can do something like this, but I'm going to type it back in so we know what we're doing. var www html. So it's going to make those directories for me. So now I can go cd /var www html. Okay. So now I'm in a directory that's common. You can serve the website from whatever directory you want to. This is just a common place for it. There's no right place for you to serve your website from. You can do it from wherever you want. But this is just a common place. So I'm gonna download the zip file that I gave you, the link for that. I'm gonna download it right here. So we can do that a couple different ways. We've learned about the curl command. I don't think I have wget on here. I do, so let's go ahead and use wget. Wget space and then paste in the URL that I gave you, which is this. That's where you can download the zip file at. So when I do that, it's gonna go ahead and it's gonna download this file, but it's not gonna work because of permissions. It's gonna say cannot write. This is the same problem we had before. We must do sudo. So I'm gonna do sudo ! So this will rerun the same command. It's gonna download it. So look at that. Process failed successfully, exactly. But it gave you a success. It's dumb. It's because it did download successfully. It just couldn't write it to the file system. But here we go. Steve's got an update, huh? That caught my eye. So we have this zip file here. Hopefully you've seen a zip file before, but if not, this is just a compressed format. It allows you to take multiple files, compress it together into one package, and be able to share just that package. And so it's a zip. We can't use a zip. We must now unzip it. Coombsy, thank you so much for the love and the support. Thank you so much for the Twitch Prime sub. I really do appreciate it. So now, if we want to do this, if we want to unzip it from the command line, simply unzip. Unzip business2.zip. We get more permissions errors. I'm so used to being root that I always forget to type in sudo. So I'm gonna clear that. Sudo unzip and the name of the file we want to unzip. So if you're gonna do unzip, you probably should be putting in a zip file so that it unzips that file. And when I do that, it says inflating. Remember, I just said this zip file, it compresses the stuff, so it actually makes it smaller. So when you unzip it, it's got to decompress, it's got to inflate. All right, so it unzipped all those things, and when I look, it made another folder. And so this kind of sucks. So to clean things up really quick, I'm done with the zip file. I'm gonna remove that zip file. We don't have to do this, but I'm gonna remove it just because we don't need it anymore. So I'm gonna rm space rf business2.zip. If you accidentally do it without the .zip, don't delete the zip file because you're gonna need to unzip it again. But I'm just gonna remove the zip file and it's not gonna let me. So I'm gonna do that and it's gonna remove it. So now we just have this directory. Inside of this directory, I'm going to do an ls-l, and I'm going to type in the name of that directory so we can see what's inside of it. This has all of our website files right here. I was going to move it, but I'll leave it there. So I'm actually going to go into there. I'm going to CD into it, and I'm going to do a PWD. This is going to tell me the full file path, the absolute file path to where these files are. And Linux, everything's a file. All you got to know is where the file is. If I want to do something with something, I just need to know where it is, okay? So I know that all of my site files are here. So all I'm going to do is take this, copy it. All right, and then now I'm going to go back and I'm going to edit the main Nginx configuration file, okay? So I'm going to do Vim. You can do Nano. Actually, I'm going to do Nano. You use Nano because we learned how to do that easier. So the way that we're going to edit it is Nano / Etsy / Nginx / Nginx.conf. So this is what we're going to run, and I'm going to share that here. We're going to modify this file. All right, so it's actually the same file we were looking at before, but before I was looking at it in Vim. And what I want you to do is use your arrows to go down. And we're going to keep going down so you get to the part that says server, listen 80. We're going to go down a little bit more. And what we're going to do is we are going to change this directory. So this is where it's serving everything from right now. It's serving it from user share Nginx HTML. That's where it's serving information from by default, but we don't want it to be there. Where do we want it to be? We want it to be from the directory that we just created. So var / www / HTML / buzziness -2, I think is what we want. This is what we want instead. Okay, and so now when we get a request over port 80, it will look here to serve the content instead. All right, and again, you might be asking, oh, it's actually not here. It must be set up somewhere else. Or, well, you don't need to specify it by default, but there's a way to specify what files to look for by default. And you can actually override that order if you'd like. It might be in one of these star.confs as well, but it's going to look here instead. Okay. So now that I've made a change to configuration, remember we learned that if you hit Control S, you can say, oh no. Okay. If you didn't sudo it, you got to get out of it. So hit Control X and it won't let you save it. So just hit N for no, and it won't let you save it. You got to do sudo. So I'm going to do sudo nano / Etsy Nginx Nginx.conf. So Control X to get out of it, and then hit N for no. Don't try to save it because it won't let you, because we actually need to be the administrator of the computer. Thank God I was running as root. Yep. Normally I would be, but again, I didn't want I didn't want you guys making mistakes. Actually, we don't have that many more things to do. Let me show you what to do. If you want to run as root all the time, be careful with this. This can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. But for right now, we can do this. It'll make our lives a little bit easier. What you can do is you can type in sudo space su, and then you put a little minus there. I do it out of habit. It changes things a bit. But what this command does is the sudo command. The sudo command allows you to escalate your privileges, and su allows you to actually change to switch your user to the root user. So when I do this, I now become root. Before I was EC2 user, I now become root. So I can become the administrator of the computer by doing this. And you can always type in who am I, and I'll tell you what user you are. So now I don't need to do any of that anymore. I don't need to type in sudo anymore, but I'm gonna go ahead and modify that file again. So nano / Etsy Nginx Nginx.conf. I'm gonna go down to this root location here, and I'm going to change it. /var www/html/business -2. Again, I think that's what it is. So I'm gonna hit Control S to save it, because that's what I learned in Waddle. I had no idea you could do that, which is super nice. Control S to save in Nano, which is weird, or Control X. And when you hit Control X, it'll ask if you want to save. You hit Y for yes, and then Enter to save the file name if you'd like. So now that I've made changes to a configuration file, and this is how a majority of Linux services are. Once you make a change, to get them to load, you must restart the service. Okay, so all the settings and things get loaded in when the application starts, and so if you make a change to it, it won't take effect. You must now restart that application. The way that we can restart it is I'm already root, is system CTL. Now Nginx will actually allow you to reload, but I'm just going to restart the whole thing. Restart Nginx. System CTL restart Nginx. This will stop it basically and restart it. And if I want to make sure it's running, I'll do status. Great, it is running. And now I'm gonna go back over here and I'm gonna load up my page. Look at that. Look at us serving up a beautiful website. Okay, dramatically engage. All right, this is a website template. Beautiful, beautiful. It's got some stuff here. Services, pontificate. Okay, engage. And now we have this. I literally went and found a random HTML template. Hopefully, it doesn't steal all of our information, even though we didn't put any information in. But here is the website that we made. And so we are now running a website. We are serving up a static website. There are easier ways to serve a static website. We'll learn how to do that with S3, but we are now serving up a static website. We are going to learn also, once we get to RDS, we'll also learn how to use this in conjunction with RDS to be able to run dynamic websites like WordPress pretty easily. So you get to see something like this a couple more times in different ways, more complicated than it is now. It's worth noting that yes, this is only running, this can only listen over port 80 or 443 and 443 or whatever. I mean, you can change the port, but like by default. But you might be asking yourself, well, does that mean I can only run one website on a server at a time? No. The reason why they have this configuration and the reason why you have to learn about web server configuration is we can actually specify multiple websites. So right now, this is kind of a catch-all. This is kind of a catch-all for the server name and just a wild card for anything that comes in. So by default, whatever comes in will serve from this. But what we can do is we can create multiple things called virtual hosts. And what this allows us to do is to say, hey, when a request comes in for, maybe we had a website called coolwebsite.com. And when that website when a request is made at that website, then we'll send it to, we'll say, hey, that website resides in var www.html cool website in the cool website folder. And then that will be one server block. And then we can actually have another configuration file that looks just like it, but says, hey, for cool website 4.com, go to the cool website 4 folder. And so we can serve pretty much as many websites as we would like off of one single server. We would just set up multiple of these configuration files that would actually go into this conf.d directory, and then we'll get loaded in. This line loads them all in. But it looks very similar. It would look very similar to this, and so you could do that. That's how you could serve multiple websites off of one server. So if you've ever been wondering, like, oh, do I need a new server for every single website? No, you don't. But the configuration needs to be updated to allow you to serve more than one thing. And then once the web request comes in, It'll do a little magic, check the server name, and route your request appropriately. Any questions about that? Any questions about what we just did? I know we went through it fast, and I know if you're trying to learn AWS, this is confusing. This can be very confusing because we're doing a lot of Linux stuff. If your goal is to learn AWS, it's okay for you to be confused by all the Linux stuff that we just did. If you're trying to get AWS certs, you will not be quizzed on any of this Linux stuff. You'll be quizzed specifically on AWS stuff. So the thing that you need to know about everything that we've learned today so far, I'm actually going to do the last lab because I can do it very quickly. But the thing that you need to know for EC2 is, hey, EC2 is kind of a general purpose server. So the reason why, all the things that we're doing are a lot of Linux stuff is because you're basically just giving me a Linux computer. The thing that's exciting about it is that you can detach the storage from it, EBS. We're going to learn about how to attach EBS volumes in a second, and how you actually get them set up on the system, because it is tough, specifically because of the way that you have to mount file systems in Linux. So this will be another Linux task. Adding a EBS volume is easy, but getting it set up on a Linux machine is a little bit harder. But for setting up a website, just know that EC2 instances, servers, are used for serving websites, and we just were able to set up a website, and knowing that, hey, if I want to serve a website from an EC2 instance, I need to install a web server. So being familiar with installing a web server and knowing that I need to install one can be important for your cloud career, and becoming familiar with some of the web servers, not how to set them up or how to use them, but knowing that Nginx is a web server, knowing that Apache is a web server, and that it allows you to be able to serve content over web protocols. Knowing that port 80 and port 443 are those ports is pretty important. And knowing that for me to be able to access those things, I must open up the security groups to allow that. And so if I go back to here, back to the console, and I click on, I look at the information for this server, and I click on security. Over in the security group area, it'll show me the rules. And now you can see here, there are 3 rules. Before there would have just been 1, which would have just been port 22, so port 22 is the port for SSH. And then because I clicked those 2 boxes, it opened up port 443 and it opened up port 80. But it did it for the source 0.0.0.0/0. This is how you specify all IP address ranges. This is called a CIDR block. Okay, this is a CIDR range, and it allows me to be able to specify a block of IP addresses. And so I could, if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to be real secure, I could change this to my IP address only. My IP address might change, but maybe it doesn't. And I could say, hey, I can log into this from my IP address. No one else in the world can have access to it. I can, only my IP address can log into it. If your company has a range of IP addresses that you might be logging in from, you can put that range here, and only your company would be able to log in. And so this firewall by default blocks everything unless you open it up. And so you've got to do that. I like how we touched on Linux on all the camp days. Yeah. I mean, you can't really get away from it. So you got to touch on it a bit. You don't have to be a Linux pro to do all this stuff. Like even for cloud engineering, you don't have to be a Linux pro, but like definitely getting a decent handle on it will help you a lot. What is a jump host in AWS? Great question, Sin City. Jump host. This is another method we can use to be able to manage security a little bit better and access of your systems. So that's actually another good use case for EC2 instances. A lot of times they're set up as jump hosts. And what that means is, rather than, so security is a big problem. what you can do is you can say, hey, I have a system of servers. I have a bunch of servers over here that are pretty important, and I don't want anyone to have access to them, or I don't want many people to have access to them. And rather than managing all of their security separately, I can say, hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a singular system that people have to go through to be able to access these servers. And so what you do is now let's say I have 10 servers that have all of my production information on them that are running all of my production services. All right. And actually, let me draw you a picture. It is the same thing as a Bastion host. Yes. White screen. Maybe this will not YouTube. This should be enough. All right, so let's say you got all of your production systems over here. So 1, 2, 3. You got them all over here, and so security-wise, here's the wall. Here's the firewall. And you're saying, hey, I actually don't want anyone to be able to access these, but I do need to log into them sometimes, okay? I'm gonna put prod servers. Rather than having to manage security for each of these, I can say, hey, only allow the IP address 10.10.2.4. So you can allow a singular IP address to get through. And so what you can do is set up one system, which is a jump host. So jump host, or Bastion host, Bastion server, or Bastion host, whatever. And what this allows you to do is, rather than having to manage, again, security, all these, and give people logins for all this stuff, everyone has to first gain access to this system. So let's say, somebody's right here and trying to get in here. All these people are trying to get in. You can't go directly here. Security is blocking you going directly there. And so for you to gain access to them, you must first gain access to the jump host. so everyone will log in here first. So I'll SSH into this system first. And then once I'm SSH into this system, then I have access to SSH into these systems. And so it's a little portal that allows you to control access a little bit easier. So that's all a jump host is, or a Bastion, and it can be a good security practice. Personally, I don't think Bastion hosts or jump hosts are. I'm also not a security guy. In my mind, they are not helpful. The reason why they're not helpful is because there's now one point of entry into all of your systems, basically. So all someone has to do is be able to get to the Bastion host. And sometimes even the Bastion host is behind a VPN, blah, blah. I get it. I know it makes it harder for people to get in, but I don't find this particularly valuable. My security posture is to not to production systems to not allow people to SSH at all. Personally, yeah, and there's good and bad to that, but I think if you're gonna do this, I don't know. I don't find it incredibly valuable, but hey, everyone feels differently. Is this similar to a reverse proxy? It is a proxy. It's more of a, I guess it's more of a normal proxy. Yeah, I think it's more of a normal proxy. Nginx and IS are reverse proxies, not Bastion or jump hosts. So Nginx and IS are both web servers. They're not reverse proxies. You can use them to reverse proxy, but they have all of the features of a web server and what those allow. Yeah, you wouldn't use those tools to to do anything with jump hosts. Yeah, you wouldn't use those tools to do anything with the jump hosts. The jump hosts are literally boxes to SSH into. You would SSH into them. You wouldn't be making web requests through them, but it is more like a forward proxy in the way that the connection is. If you want to get to the prod servers, you must do so by way of the jump host. Okay. I'm gonna go through the last. What's it called? The last thing really quickly, the last lab, because I think it's important. The fact that I'm understanding all this lingo, it's been a good month. Perfect. Julian, I'm so glad you said that. Not because, yes, I'm glad you're understanding it. Yeah. That is the fact that you were able to realize that is, that there is value there, that, hey, there's conversation being had, that even if I don't get all of it, that I'm understanding words that are coming out that I didn't understand before. I'm understanding parts of the conversation that I would not have understood before. That's real progress. That's real world progress. That's how progress in the real world happens. Like, it's not all, oh, I watched it, now I know it. Like, it's not, that ain't it at all. Like I said before, learning isn't linear for tech. For a lot of things, learning doesn't have to be linear. So that's dope. I love to hear that. I think a bit more is, what does having a Bastion host let us do with the network design thing? That's fair. Another thing is that you have to do is separate domains from the Bastion and everything else, which is pretty cool. Yep. Where's the only on the gov side where the requirements about the networks? Yeah. No. I don't think Bastion hosts are useless at all. I've basically, so I'm a little bit jaded from a government contract. We were forced to put in a Bastion host to adhere to security standards when we already had a better security posture. The thing that we had in place was equally, if not a little bit more secure, and we had to they fought us, and we're like, no, you have to put in a Bastion host, and we're like, why? And they were like, because it's secure, and we're like, well, we don't need a Bastion host for the way that we had set up, for the way that we specifically had that set up. Yes, there are lots of requirements, there are ways. Yes, depending on what your rules are, it could make it work really well. But I think I'm just a little bit jaded here. It's easier to capture and audit what's happening on a limited number of hosts. 100%, probably more useful for compliance. Yeah, story of my life. Yeah, but again, government's getting better, y'all. I know it's seriously, especially if you're on the East Coast, the government's a really good place to start your career or to really find some growth. The government's doing a lot. They're spending a ton of money on, revitalization. There's a lot of contracts to do that stuff. And again, I think it's a good place to go learn. Like, it's not the most cutting edge stuff. So you don't gotta be all up to date on the newest technologies, and because they can't pay Silicon Valley money, it's there's a lot more space for more people at different levels to get in. I think people should check out government contract positions. That's pretty dope. I'm a fan of destroying production and rebuilding instead of allowing access. For troubleshooting production. So Gilbert Grenade. I'm a huge fan of that. It's not always easy. Your team has to be kind of well oiled, but yeah, I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of configuration as code. Actually, I'm a fan of build time configuration rather than runtime configuration. And if we need to make changes, do it via code. I'm a big fan of do it via code. And if the system needs, we don't SSH into instances, because if we want to make a change, we make it via code. Make it via code. Redeploy the whole stack. Redeploy the whole thing. That's for my own sake, for after hours management, that is what I would like to do. But I obviously understand that's a utopian thought. It's damn near impossible to achieve that, but that is what I go for. IC with CI/CD. I'm a fan. That's my preferred method. Okay, last thing, real quick, because again, the first part of it is the AWS part, and the second part is the Linux part, but it is important to know both pieces. Simply that you may want to add some storage to your EBS. Add some EBS storage to your EC2 instance. This is important. This is something that you will do, and understanding what needs to happen is important. You do not have to. You absolutely do not have to memorize this at all. I just need you to know that there are two parts to it. I need you to know that adding an EBS volume is one part, but it's not usable until you do some more things. And so let's go ahead and let's talk about doing that. I'll take the instance that we have now. A few Linux commands to help you do some stuff. I'm gonna exit out of this. I'm not gonna save it because I did stuff to break it. Linux command to check your file system usage, your disk space. df space -h. This will show it to you in a human readable view. So it'll give it to you in megabytes and gigabytes. So you can see what's used, blah, 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 all that stuff. But if you look at this, there's gonna be a lot of stuff that I don't need you to worry about. But what I want you to see is a normal file system, like the file system, the EBS volume that's attached to this. This is where it's attached. It's connected to /dev/xvda1, and it's actually mounted at the root of the system. So this is your root file system. Okay, so this is the 8 GB one that we got during the setup. I'm gonna go ahead and get us a new one added right now. How in the world do you add a new EBS volume to an EC2 instance? Easy. Well, I'm gonna go here. This is the one that nope, not the rescue. All right, so this is my web server, okay? I need to get some information first. The reason I need to get some information is because for you to attach an EBS volume to an EC2 instance, this is something that's good for the exam. If you want to attach an EBS volume to an EC2 instance, they must be in the same availability zone. All right, if you want to attach an EBS volume to an EC2 instance, they must be in the same availability zone. So I need to know what availability zone this is in, and the way that I can find that is if I just scroll over. So if I just scroll over from here, it'll tell me it's in US East 1B. Okay. So an EBS volume works like an NFS mount point under the hood. Yes. Now I'm pretty sure, well, as far as I know, yes, but without the face, I'm sure Amazon's doing some special things internally to make this ultra fast and not have any perceivable network latency or much perceivable network latency. But yes, under the hood, very much like NFS, but AWS also does have NFS options. They have EFS, which is the Elastic File System or Elastic File Store or Elastic File Service. It's one of those three names. Who can remember it all? It's one of those three names, but they have an NFS offering. But yes, that's good. That's good catch. It does. It's an EBS volume. It's an EBS volume. It's attached over the network, but you don't know that. You don't see it. You don't see how that connection gets done. So I've got to know where it is. So it's in US East 1B. So I've got to create a volume in this location. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the left, and we're going to go down to volumes. Elastic Block Stores here, volumes. So you're still inside of EC2, you go to volumes. I'm going to create a volume, so you can create volumes separately from instances. So I'm going to leave everything default. 100 gigs, I'm going to make it 30 because that's how much you can get for free. I'm just going to make it another 8 gig. I don't care. another 8 gig, make it whatever you want, because we're going to delete this in a second anyway. But 8 gigs, I'll leave everything else default except for the availability zone. Remember, this has to match. So I'm going to put this in 1B because that's where my instance I want to connect it to is. So 1B, and then I'll leave everything else the same here. I don't need it encrypted. I don't need anything else. So I dropped my size to 8, but you can leave it at 100 if you'd like. And then I'm going to go down and it's 1 and then make it 1B. Make yours whatever yours is. It's presented like a local volume, exactly, so it's going to seem like it's attached. More like a lump from Sam. Yeah. Yep. So I'm going to create it. And now I should have given it a name. I really should have given it a name. All right, so it's this bottom one. I know it's this bottom one because it doesn't have a snapshot and it's still creating. So you should look at that really quick. So I'll give it a name real quick because I didn't. I'll call this lab volume. Hold up. It's available now. I mean, you can also see. Why didn't it save? Lab vol. Oh, maybe I can't put a dash in it, or maybe it can't be capital. I don't know. But it's available, so you can see all of these are ones that were created along with an instance. As soon as they get created with the instance, they're automatically in use. If they're attached, they will be in use. This one is available now. It's not. It's available. All right. So now, if I have this and it's available, and it's once it says it's available, it's ready to go. I can go to Actions, Attach Volume. I can actually also do this over from the EC2 side, but I'm going to go to Attach Volume. Okay. And then it says, hey, what instance would you like to attach this to? And you can click on the drop down here and it'll show you some of the instances. If you have a lot, this can be hard to know, and you should go back and copy and find the instance ID because that's going to be easier. But we don't have any running, and I actually only have one running, and it's Camp Cloud Web Server. So I'm going to attach it to this. Then you can give it a device name. So this is going to be where, this is going to be the name for where it kind of gets attached to. Not where it's mounted at, but just I will leave it default for now. So leave it as dev SDF, and then click attach. All right. So we've now done the AWS portion of this. That's how you attach a volume. Nothing in AWS like that's done to the console is particularly difficult. That worked, but these are still computers. These are still computers in the cloud. These are cloud computers. They're network computers. And so we still have to follow computing rules. And so we've taken a drive, we've taken just a storage drive, and we've attached it to a computer. If you were to open up your computer right now and stick a hard drive in there, well, if you did it while it's running, it might have problems. It probably wouldn't work how you think it's going to work. But even if you cut it off and attached the drive to it and started back up, that drive might not be immediately usable. It could be, but oftentimes you've got to do some extra stuff. And so let's find out what that extra stuff is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here. Last time I ran a df-h, this is what the output was. I'm going to run it again. And now we have the same thing. Kind of what we would have expected, right? Okay, now let's go to our guide. And let's look at what we need to do. Format and mount an attached volume. So now I've attached a volume. Let's actually go back and make sure it's attached really quick. Let's make sure all of the things that we expected to happen have happened. So I have this lab vol. It is also in use, which is beautiful. It's in US East 1B, which is beautiful. Okay, cool. I can see the instance that it's attached to, which is this one, which is beautiful. All right, just want to make sure everything is set up how we expect it to be set up. So it says connect to the instance using SSH. So we're already SSH'd in, so not a big deal. We don't have to do that. The device could be attached to the instance with a different device name than you specified in the block mapping, the block device mapping. So when it said /dev/sdf, it's saying that, hey, it could actually be attached with a different file name. We tried to map it as we mapped it as, but it could have actually got attached as something different, especially if there were some conflicting things already there. Use the lsblk command. This is lsblock, list block command, to view your available disk devices and their mount points to help you. So what we have is basically an unformatted hard drive stuck into our computer. Now we're gonna take a look, see what we have available to us. Then we're gonna need to format it and mount it to the computer as a drive letter, basically, so that we can actually use it. So we're gonna use the lsblk command to see what we have available to us. Notice when I do a df-h, I don't see /dev/sdf or anything, another 8 gigabyte drive. We don't see one 8 gigabyte drive. That was the one we originally had. So lsblk, take a look at that. So this is /, and then this is actually our new one right here, xvdf. I should have made this a different size so we could have very clearly seen the difference between the two. But this is the it's there, it's seen, but it's not being used for anything at this time. So great, we can see it there. Let's go ahead and look back and see what we got to do next. So they show you what an example of what your output's going to look like. Great. Now we need to determine if there's a file system on the volume. So like I said, when you plug in a new hard drive into your computer, it might work. It might be set up. It's possible that if you didn't buy it brand new, that there's a file system already on it and it's ready to go by your computer, but most likely not. And so we need to determine if there's a file system that already exists. So it's going to tell us to use the file-s command to get the information. Here's a good example: sudo file-s, and then the path to our drive. So dev xvdf, and then if it does not have a file system on the device, it should display something like this. If there is a file system, then it should display something like this. If we do have a file system, we can skip some of the next options. But if it doesn't have a file system, we've got to get a file system on it first before we can use it. Okay, so let's do this over here. So sudo, well, we're already root, so I don't need to. So just file-s/dev/xvdf. And it comes back as data. It's unformed. There's no file system on this thing. All right, so no file system on this drive. So now we can do if it already has a file system device, the command shows information. Okay, use the lsblock-f command to get information about all the devices attached to the instance. I don't think we need to do that. Yeah, so we must go ahead and create one now. All right, so the way that we're going to create it is this mkfs command. All right, so I'm going to copy this, basically the whole thing. I need to head off. Peace out. All good. We're almost done here. Thanks for hanging out for so long. I just wanted to get through the last lab so that we could, we could see it all. So that you can see this piece. Thanks for coming through. Thanks for providing some support. Thanks for helping. I appreciate it. All right, so I'm gonna run this command. Make fs. Okay, so make file system, mkfs. Make file system -t xfs, and then our destination here of where we want to do. So what I'm gonna do is try to run this, and we might get an error. And look at that. That actually looks good to me. Got some output. I don't know what it says. That's most stuff with Linux output. Got a bunch of stuff here that I didn't get an error. It doesn't look like an error to me at all. If you get an error that xfs, make fs is not found, use the following command to install it. So we already have it installed. Another benefit of Amazon Linux, probably. So now we're gonna make a directory to mount this to. So now we actually have a file system here. So if we actually go back, I don't know what's okay. If we actually go run the block the file system command, notice how if we run it again, it doesn't just say data. We actually have a file system on it now. Now that we have a usable drive, now we need to mount it to somewhere on the system. We need to take it, we need to mount it to somewhere on the system. The way that we mount it on the system is we're gonna create a directory to mount it to. We're gonna make our own directory, and then we're gonna mount it to that directory. And so this says make one called data. That's cool. So I'm gonna make dir/data. So from the root, I'm gonna make a directory called data. All right, so now there's a data directory, and you can see if I look at the data directory, it should be empty, nothing in it. Now that I have a data directory, I'm gonna mount this drive to it. So I'm gonna do mount this drive to this directory. So mount /dev xvdf, and I'm gonna mount it to /data. All right, so now I've mounted it. It didn't give me any errors. If I do a df/h, take a look at this. Now I have another 8 gig drive right here, and it's mounted to /data. So now if I go to /data and I begin to put stuff on here, it will now start to eat up this space. So let me find a large file. A large file to download. Test file. I'm gonna download a big file. Here we go. No thanks. 5 gigs. Let me do like a 1 gig, 2 gigs. No. Okay. Well, 1 gig right here. I'm done. Okay. Cancel. Let me just make sure. Okay. So I'm gonna download this file. Copy link address, and I'll go ahead and I'll wget this. It should be pretty fast because it's Amazon. Not as fast as I expected. Definitely not as fast as I expected, but fast nonetheless. You know, it's quick. It ain't crazy multi-gig quick, but it is coming from a remote location. Data transfers inside of AWS are extremely fast. AWS has a backbone network that its data travels through so fast when you're transferring stuff enter AWS, which is pretty cool. So only reason I'm downloading this is because I want to show you that when I download, I'm downloading this in the data directory. I want you to see that it's eating up space on this drive and not this drive. Because I mounted it here, because I'm saving it here, it's not going to take up any space up here. I'm glad I didn't do the 5 gig one. Almost done. So close. All right, now if I do another DF, take a look at that. This has gone unchanged, but now I've taken up 13%. I've used 1.1 gigs of this. I only have 7 gigs left, and it happened here. So now that's how you can add more space to your system and use that space. Adding the EBS volume is one thing, but making it usable on the system is a second thing. That's what you need to remember. For all you cloud folks, that's what you need to remember. There's another step to make it permanent. Like right now, if I were to reboot this actually would not remain connected. The data would stay on the drive because EBS is persistent. And I could easily remount it, but I would have to manually mount it again. I would have to run that mount command again. I would not have to reformat the hard drive. I would not have to re-add it. It's still attached, but it would not mount again by itself. I would have to set up something called the file system table, the FS tab file, to be able to automatically mount this again. But again, that's a Linux concept. That's not something that I was stressed about. It's if you want to know about it, look up how to persistently mount a file system to a Linux computer or something like that, but it's gonna, yeah, it's not hard to do. It's just another file that we have to edit. Can you unmount this and add it to a different instance? 100%. I don't even have to unmount it from here, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna umount /data. Target is busy. Target is busy. Oh, it's because I'm on it. Umount /data. And now I'm no longer have it mounted. I could easily, very easily now, and okay, this is actually really good because it has, this is great because it has that stuff on there. This is really good. I downloaded that file. I'm going to do, first things first, I'm going to go into my volumes. I'm going to detach it. So now I've detached the storage from here. It's gonna take a little bit to do. Still in use. Give it a few, even though it says successfully detached. It is not showing detached yet, but okay. So now it's available. Check this out real fast. I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna make a new EC2 instance really quickly. Launch instance. Come on. Let's get there. I'm gonna say EBS vol move. All right, I'll leave everything the same here. Key pair, I'm gonna make it recovery key. I'm gonna actually give this 10 gigs just so you can clearly see that it's different. And I'm gonna launch it. And you can see how fast you can spin up new things and you can move around stuff if you need to. This is gonna take no time at all. So now I have a new server that's getting spun up. I've detached it from the other instance, which you should be able to see here is I'm gonna spin up this instance. I'm gonna attach that volume to it and I'm gonna mount it, and it should have that big file that we downloaded. It should have that big file still on it because this data is persistent. That 1 gig file, it should still be there. So now I'm going to go to back to my volumes, lab volume. I'm going to attach it. I'm going to attach it to EBS vol move. I'll attach it to the same thing, dev SDF, attach volume. I'm going to go back. I'm going to get logged into my instance. So copy. I'll remove this. And I'm going to get out of this instance. Actually, I'll just do it over here. Documents, AWS, recovery. Yeah, that seems right. And EC2-user at, this is the new IP address. I'm logged in. So now I'm logged in. Take a look at this. If I do a df/h, it is not here. I still only have my root device, which is actually 10 gigs because I want to make it different, and a bunch of the temp file systems. Great, very exciting. But if I do an ls block, I can see that I have this 8 gig volume. It's attached, okay? But it already has a file system on it. We know because we already did it. /dev xvdf. So I don't have to do that same stuff to be able to get a file system on it. Oh, whoops. Sudo, I'm not root. You can see there's a file system already on it. So all I have to do now is I have to mount it. So I'm gonna make the data directory here because there's no data directory on the system. Make dir, well actually sudo make dir /data. And then once I do that, I'm going to mount /dev. Actually, I'm gonna do sudo again. Sudo /dev, sudo mount /dev /xvdf. I'll mount it to /data. And now if I do a df/h, look at that. That looks just like it was on the other system, right? And if I go into /data, Now I see I can have this 1 GB binary that I downloaded. So yes, you can add it to a different instance, which is nice. So you can kind of take this, and as you delete things, you can keep if you have data, let's say you're developing an application and you have data that gets saved. S3 is a good place for it, but you can have it on the instance. You can shut down instances, and you can have it sitting somewhere waiting, and you can attach it to a new instance later to be able to use it. So yes, that's the great part about EBS. Not only can you move these things around, you can also resize them. So if I wanted to resize this, that's a little bit harder as well, but you can resize an instance and make it larger. Depending on how much data you have, if you don't have a crazy amount of data, I'm actually a fan of just attaching a new one that's larger and then just copying everything over. Personally, that's not always possible. You can grow in EBS volume if you'd like to grow in EBS volume. And again, snapshotting is one of the big benefits here. So I can take these incremental snapshots of my instance as well and get easy point in time restores of this thing, which is super duper nice. Super duper great. So EBS is the thing that makes EC2 so great, to be honest, besides all the different instance classes. But yeah, you can detach it and attach elsewhere. So that is all of the labs that we have for today. Just to kind of run through and see the types of things that you could do. Remember, EC2 is just the default kind of cloud instance server thing with a few extra benefits, specifically the usefulness of EBS and being able to detach the storage from the compute instance itself, which is nice. I'm gonna go ahead and shut my instances down. You should shut your instances down too, to not accrue any of your hours. So that's the end of learning about EC2. We learned a lot about it. We didn't learn every single thing about it, but enough to be useful. You know now that an EC2 is a on-demand compute capacity item for being able to spin up compute servers inside of AWS. We learned that we have different instance classes and different instance sizes. So classes allow us to select what thing we would like to prioritize. If we need more RAM, if we need some graphics, if we need, intense CPU, we can pick an instance class, which allows us to do that, along with an instance size, such as small, medium, large, extra large, 4XL, 10XL, whatever. The different sizes that go along with these instance classes, and you can use the one that you need. The real big concept when it comes to cost is you're charged by the hour, you're charged by the minute or by the second, and while the instance is off, you don't pay for the compute capacity, but you do pay for the storage. You do pay for the storage when you cut it off, but storage is pretty cheap in comparison. It'll probably be pennies. If you have a bunch of stuff on there, it'll probably just be pennies. But you can save a lot of money while it's off because you're not charged for that. But the big thing was the difference instance, the pricing models for these. You have on demand, the most common usage type, but also the most expensive. I get what I want when I ask for it. Then you have reserved instances. So I can commit upfront to purchasing a certain amount of capacity, and I can reserve that, and I can pay a discounted price. I have a couple different options for a discounted price. The longer I do it for, I think it's 1 year or 3 years. The longer I commit to it, the cheaper my rate is. Then you have spot instances where it's kind of like the stock market, and throughout the day, as people are getting more and more on-demand instances, and AWS's stuff is being more utilized or less utilized, the price for an instance fluctuates, and you can set an amount, a threshold, and once it drops below that, you can be given a certain amount of instances at that rate, and then when the price goes above that again, you will lose access to your servers. And so this you can actually use this pretty cleverly. But a big use case for this is if you have jobs that you're always processing, maybe like you're just constantly processing a lot of data, and you want to be able to add more servers when things are cheap to do more processing. That might be a use case for something like that. What I would advise you to do to learn more about EC2, go check out the EC2 docs, which I shared when we first started going over EC2 inside of Google Classroom. But I think the next step, there are a few more Look through here, ask some questions. There are things that we didn't talk about, like elastic IPs. Not super important right now, but something that I think it's a concept you can understand on your own. Basically, this the way that every time we stopped one of these servers and started back up, we had a new IP address, which would suck if we were trying to work on a project and we needed to know the IP address because we needed to see it through the web interface. An elastic IP address gives you a permanent IP address. There used to be $1 per IP address. I think they still cost that much, but they allow you to attach this elastic IP address to an instance, and no matter how many times you restart it or whatever, it's a static IP address for that system, and it'll always receive that same IP address. So there's some other options here that we're going to talk about once we get to the scalability section. Things like placement groups and stuff like that, load balancers. We're going to learn about all this. So don't worry, we didn't skip everything that's in here. But I would start looking into how you can do some of this stuff from the command line. Just look, hey, how do I provision an EC2 instance from the command line? It'll make you feel cool. It'll teach you a little bit more. It'll help you start thinking about things a different way, for sure. But yeah, that's it. Hope you got something out of it. I got to get out of here. Yeah, absolutely Sin City. Thanks everybody for coming through. Thanks everybody for sticking around for a longer stream. Let's see. We need the limit for elastic IPs that give you some generic error. It's great. That's for everything. That's for everything, Kumzi. They give you a fairly generic error for any limits. That is something that's also a good thing to throw out there. Everybody, there are service limits in here. So by default, you do have a limited number of each of these things that you can provision. This is mostly so that you don't accidentally get charged an astronomical amount of things, and so that Amazon can keep their usage, in check, in control, and can kind of guesstimate how much, so they're not hitting the head because everybody's ordering millions of servers every day. But that limit is, you can get it increased. All you got to do is put in a service ticket or a limit increase request, and usually super quickly with no explanation, they will give you more. If you ask for more capacity, they will give you more capacity. Yeah, so much to learn about AWS. So much. There's so many things. Again, nothing in particular I think is all that difficult. It's just getting familiar with it. It's just getting familiar with it. I think EC2 is one of the hardest. Again, because if you don't know Linux, it can be super weird. If you shut down an instance and restart it, does it get a different IP address? Yes, it does. Unless you have elastic IP attached to it, it will get a different IP address, for sure. Cool. All right, who are we gonna raid this evening? Let's see who's online today. Yep, 3 hours strong. I used to stream 3 hours and it'd be so easy. But just your boys getting old. We're not gonna go. We should go to Amaranth, sure. Wait, let me. What's this? What's this category? It's not science and tech anymore. It is programming and game development. I don't even know. Actually, what's my name? I'll just go to my page. That's usually how I do it. Absolutely, Julian. Yeah, Thursday. Come on back on Thursday if you want to learn some more Linux. I think we're doing some process management, learning how to manage processes and learning how to know what's going on your computer is what we're doing. Then recommended for you. Always like to go high to low just so I do it. We've already hit up CM Griffin. Is there anyone that, I'm trying to think if there's anyone I know. The Wall Street Bets. One day we'll talk about all of the money stuffs. Let's go say hello to, what are people doing? Peace out, Top Driver. Good night. Who's doing? Former DB dev goes figuring out how to use SQLite 3. Yeah, let's go say hello to building a Python bot, learning Rust. Actually, let's go see finite singularity. Rust sounds cool. and I feel like people need friends when they're learning Rust for sure. Brain is fried. Yeah, Mizurugi. 100%. I completely understand. Let's go ahead. Finite Singulator. I don't think I've ever been over there. I'll stay and watch for a little while. But everyone have a good night. I'll see you on Thursday. Go get some rest. Because I will. And I'll come back well rested. Singularity. Did I spell that correctly? I think I did. We're out of here in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, good night. Peace out, everybody.